Are we officially live?
I mean, yeah, but we can actually start We can actually start the podcast whenever we want to.
Hey, welcome to the Sip It and Rip It podcast. We're drinking Blue Hawaiians.
Except for me.
And Sandy's drinking, what are you drinking?
Okay, so I have straight to ale, Stout at the Devil beer.
She's a religious beer drinker and she did not want any part of our frou-frou drink today.
You had a very interesting way of describing it. Why don't you tell everybody about how you felt?
How did you describe this drink when you tried it?
So I taste tested it and I said it tastes like when you're sick with like a stomach virus and they have that like fruity cherry syrupy medicine that they try to give you to like calm your stomach down, but it doesn't work, and then you like put Sprite on top of it and then you go throw up again. That's what it tastes like to me.
So his Blue Hawaiian tastes like vomit.
Yeah.
But a specific kind of vomit.
There's some in my beard too.
Nathan normally asks this question, but I'm going to ask it today. What did we do in the gym today? Ladies first.
Okay, so I had leg day. So Zach trained, he's my trainer, and programmed everything. So I did 3 sets of 12 squats at 50% and then a set of myo reps. Still don't really know what myo means, but it torched me.
Nathan can explain that better probably.
Basically, and my original explanation on the first episode, I think, when I was talking about it, I said 30 seconds rest and then you go into your... So you do your set, 30 seconds rest, and then you go in. I actually watched Dr. Mike recently say something about it. He basically said as soon as if your legs are on fire, as soon as your legs are no longer on fire, that's when you start.
So we're really probably talking about ideally 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah. It probably varies from person to person.
And load to load, honestly.
Yeah. Well, what's funny about mine is I feel like it torched my back today more than it did my legs.
Yeah, well, so that's a good point though. Most big compound lifts, especially when you're doing volume work, and this is no shot at you, but most of the time you're going to feel it the most where you're weakest.
Yeah.
So if you're doing bench press and, typically what wears out on me if I'm doing high reps on bench press isn't my chest. It can take a fucking beating.
Yep.
Typically it's going to be my front delts or my triceps.
It's always my triceps.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. That's the reason, you hear people like Death Grip Derek say, I need more tricep. Yep. That's because he needs more fucking tricep. He's an elite, don't get me wrong, but bigger triceps never a fucking problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if you're squatting low bar, most of the time it's going to be your low back before it's your quads.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, I habitually skip
reverse hypers.
Yes, I hate them so much.
I religiously program reverse hypers so that we have strong lower backs.
I should do them first instead of waiting until the end, and then I'm like, oh shoot, don't have time.
Man, look at the time. I actually gotta go.
Gotta go cook dinner.
So what did you do, Nathan?
I also did legs. It seems like every time we get together I've done legs, but I only do them twice a week.
I think that's just because it falls on Saturday, right? We record on Saturday.
Yeah, and then it's always leg day. It's always SSB squats. So I did a top set at 300 for 8 and then 3 myo reps, I think it was 3 myo reps. And that was the end. And fun fact about that, Dr. Mike says you're an idiot if you do myo reps with compound movements.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, fuck it, we're doing it.
I feel like it's great personally. I definitely feel like I get more out of it because I get more volume out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's probably, I think he would say this too. That's probably a blanket statement in that if you're smart, all 3 of us are qualified coaches.
Right.
If you're smart and you're managing your load, then what's the issue with doing the myo reps or not?
Yeah.
I would argue that it's not that big of a deal. And keep in mind, I'm the only one in prep. These 2 aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can get away with bending rules that I probably wouldn't right now.
Yeah. I would never. 135 was my 50%, and I would never. That's warm up weight.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So it's we're not talking about Sandy started this week of programming for her. Is the first time she's still very much on a bodybuilding program, but it's the first time she's been given a set number on her barbell movements in about 12 weeks. or even 16. I don't know, but it's been at least 12 weeks that she's been given a set number, and it's also the first time in 12 to 16 weeks that she's doing barbell first.
Right.
So it was absolutely a conservative number. So I don't feel guilty at all about the myo reps.
No.
I think that we've talked about it 100 times before, and we're going to get deep into it now. But everything works until it doesn't.
Yeah.
So like I said, this is not something we're going to do in powerlifting prep.
No, for sure.
In powerlifting prep, you need confident, super high quality reps, and you need to get the fuck out and get your accessory work done.
Right.
I mean, really, that's it. But that's not what we're doing right now. So that's my argument against Dr. Mike, who I probably shouldn't argue against.
I mean, that guy's legs are bigger around than my waist, so.
Right. He's just a.
They're bigger around than his waist.
They are.
He's a fucking massive person.
But he did actually mention, I guess, and it may be that the way we are programming myo reps is different than the way he would, because like I said, when he mentioned it, he said as soon as the feeling is gone, you go straight into it. So maybe because we're waiting, and he said something about the amount of time, if you're doing a set rest period, then it's different. I can't remember the name he called it, but he called it something else.
Yeah.
Boy, all this shit makes it sound real smart, doesn't it?
I don't know about that.
Myo reps.
Myo reps. That's just a fancy word for do more.
Do more.
Until you can't.
But let me I'll end this tirade here in a second. But what is really though, doing the myo reps really isn't that much different than just simply training to a given number of reps in reserve and then doing a burnout set.
Yeah.
Which has happened traditionally for 100 years in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Right.
On every movement you can think of. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, whatever
then
Dr. Mike says, I feel like I'm going to get fucking jacked from
well, fair, yeah, that's true. But like you did, me and you both have messed around with, it's the Priloquin chart, right?
Yeah. Or Prilipin.
Prilipin, sorry.
Yeah.
Which is really made for Olympic weightlifters, but Ben Pollack, who's a big influence on both of us, applies those effective reps to bodybuilding principles, and really the myo reps really isn't much different, to be honest. I mean,
in a sense,
you're basically forcing more effective reps. You're basically taking enough time to be able to hit reps that would have been beyond failure had you continued to set versus taking the break.
Yeah.
And that's really, that's really what it comes down to, in my opinion. That's, that's a bird's eye view because I haven't applied them to my own training yet, and I won't because I'm with Ron. But, bird's eye view, that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just is what it is.
That's fair.
Yeah, for sure.
So what did you do?
Is it my turn?
It's
you
my bad.
You asked the question this time.
I did ask the question.
Normally I do go
most
last.
of the time I lead off. So I had an upper body day. Second time shouting out Ron, but he's done such a good job managing my volume and stuff. I feel really healthy. And I had kind of gotten my feels about my current body weight, but just seeing myself in the gym today, I think that despite the fact I'm heavier than ever, I actually was kind of happy with the way I look today, which is very rare for somebody. Last episode I spoke about, my eating disorders and body dysmorphia when Elizabeth was on. But that's an incredibly rare feeling for me, and I actually was kind of content with the way I looked. And ironically, I'm the heaviest I've ever been.
Right.
By a lot. I'm like 6 pounds heavier than I've ever been. And, a lot of that's credit to Ron because the work I'm doing is high quality. I think I mentioned in the first podcast, I was doing, on lower body days, I was doing anywhere from 350 to 450 reps a session. And on upper body days, I was doing anywhere from, 500 to 600 reps a session. And that's changed from, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that has changed from about, I would say lower body days, I'm doing about 200 reps per session, warm-ups and everything. And then upper body days, I think I had 286 today.
Yeah. But
the volume is higher quality. It's addressing specific weaknesses, and there's more things to failure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, there's less total work, but more of it is near failure.
Right.
So, like I said, I would say that it's just higher quality work, if that makes sense. So, but I had bench press, and it was honestly, and this is no shot to Ron, but because he's definitely I have a work capacity issue, and he's definitely trying to build work capacity. But I had 7 sets of 7 on bench at like 215, and that's just, if y'all don't know, anything less than about 250 pounds, me and Nathan can dominate to just an absurd degree. So my goal today was make the first set and the last set look the same.
Yep.
Or even be better by the last set. And that's what I did, and I achieved it, and I marked that off and did the work I was supposed to do and nothing more, and hell, it was a good day. So it's just what it is. So. Cool. Nothing special about my programming other than he's pretty meat and potatoes. There's nothing fancy about it. So.
Right. And that's fair. I mean, going into a powerlifting program, you don't really need a lot of this frou-frou.
Yeah, again, that's the difference between me and you guys right now is I'm in prep and y'all are in off season. So, there's no experimenting happening with me. It's just tried and true. We're doing this fucking work and that's it.
Yeah.
So
we're on Operation Get Lean so we can get more jacked.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I think it's been you're a little further behind a lot of my clients in terms of this program, but I think in general, I mean, you can look at Desi.
Yeah.
For reference, that's Nathan's girlfriend, but Desi is just completely and totally fucking yoked right now. And she's been in off season since not for very long, for like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, as long as
she's been in a calorie deficit, so she's starting to look more yoked, even though she's lighter body weight. Yep. But man, she's really killing it. But even prior to that, we had a long off season and then focused on her bodybuilding movements more in prep than we usually do, and I think that paid for her because she looks fucking stellar.
Right.
And I got examples of 10 or 15 other clients that have benefited the same from it.
Well, I just feel like compared to other women in my weight class, I am so thin compared to them. Like I do not have as much.
You're taller.
Yeah.
And that's.
But I also, I mean, I'm also like a pudgier. Like they have a lot more muscle mass than I have. But I think that this is going to benefit me a lot.
Yeah, and I don't mean, and I'm not trying to shit on CrossFit. But the truth is that me and Sandy came from a CrossFit background, and it's just a freaking fact. CrossFit is incredibly good for building overall work capacity. It's incredibly good for overall health and wellness. But when it comes to, in my opinion, when it comes to the powerlifting world, we did not have the base of muscle that maybe Nathan did with it may have been a bro split kind of thing, but a loose bodybuilding background. We did not have the framework of muscle most people have going into powerlifting.
Right.
And even now, what I'm working on with Ron is I have weak shoulders, we fucking pound shoulders. I have weak quads, we pound quads. Even now, even though I'm in prep, I'm hammering home these bodybuilding elements that I didn't get enough of.
Yeah.
And it's just all it is. It's just not the same sport, and it didn't set us up with a foundation to play the sport we're in now, to be honest.
Yeah.
So we're having to do some backtracking, and it just is what it is. So,
yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, no real shot at CrossFit. It's just not, it doesn't provide you, because it's all so high intensity, it does not provide you with the basis of muscle you need, in my opinion, to be a good powerlifter.
Yeah.
So.
That's fair. I mean, it's 2 different sports. I mean, when you look at, what's the guy who always wins CrossFit games?
I mean, it used to be Rich Froning. I don't know who the fuck it is now.
There's some guy who always wins. Yeah. He's like the top guy, but
I mean, let's be honest with you. I mean, these guys are. Matt Frazier was. He's been the one that's fucking tearing it up.
Yeah.
Extremely strong individual. Not taking anything away from him. But if you look at him in an Olympic lifting context, he's less than average.
Yeah.
If you look at his ability to run a 5K, he's less than average. Like, CrossFit is a sport of being average, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But you have to be a little bit good at everything, and for that reason, you can't be great at anything.
Yeah.
What's that? Tia Claire Toomey, is that who it was? The Australian lifter, New Zealand lifter. CrossFitter won. She won women's several times in a row. She was also an Olympic weightlifter, and fared okay at the Olympics, but she never won anything. Right. And there's a reason for that. It's because CrossFit got in the fucking way. I mean, honestly, you can't be a good Olympic weightlifter and have that level of metabolic conditioning too.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just think that, honestly, these are elite athletes we're talking about. We're not comparing ourselves to them at all. But I'm just telling you from experience, when you're doing high interval training all the time, that is not a good recipe for muscle building. And me and Sandy are catching up, but we're paying the price for that now.
Right.
So it just is what it is.
That's fair. And so you had something you came to me earlier with about that you wanted to talk about. Pretty new to the podcast.
Oh yeah, so we're all big metalheads for the most part. It's not all that I listen to.
I listen to a lot of shit.
Yeah, I absolutely listen to a lot of shit. I'm a musician by formal education, and all my life I've been a musician. Nathan has, at least at the very minimum, dabbled in music and has grown up around it. Yeah, I mean, we got guitars and amps in this room. But I decided that we should talk about what we listen to in the gym. And I think that's really interesting. So today I'm just going to give my top 4 PR songs, and then we'll do new stuff from here on out. But I'm going to start with Nathan, and we're going to pick out three or four songs that we think y'all should listen to, and we're going to link a playlist under this podcast whenever it posts. So, Nathan.
So for me, I have I'd have to really go in and dig, but I'll try and pick some variety. So I really like As I Lay Dying. And
I've been listening to them forever.
As
I
Lay Dying is great. One of their, I think it's Beyond Our Suffering. That's really good PR song. I like Dominate by Beartooth, which might get a few laughs out of it because it's Beartooth, but it's a really good song, and I like Beartooth.
I have one of those too. That's gonna get a laugh.
Well, for some
people,
some people might be like, "Yeah, Beartooth goes hard." And I'm like,
that's not that hard. For the
it's
record,
not,
it's not that hard.
Yeah. But it's a killer song.
Yeah, that's all that matters. Is it good? We're not judging. If anybody has hot takes about music, it will absolutely be me, and I will judge fucking hard. Judge so hard.
And I will say, basically, the entire Black Adam soundtrack is really fucking good for the gym.
We're talking about like the orchestral part of that.
Yeah, not the rap.
I'm surprised you listened to that when you left. To be honest with you.
Oh yeah.
I should try that. I mean, more orchestral and like movie scores, stuff like that.
Movie scores are fantastic to listen to because like especially if you're like reliving stuff in your head, like moments of the movie or moments of like whatever media it came from, you're just like really getting pumped about it. That all anything like that.
I could probably get down some Hans Zimmer.
Oh,
the fucking the original. I mean, not the original. That's but the Christopher Nolan Batman.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan Batman. I have that on Spotify. I listen to that at the gym.
I could get down
pretty frequently.
So what else? Is that it for you?
That's all. I listed 3. I figured that'd be pretty good for right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I've listened to the entire soundtrack, but
okay. So, I have this playlist called "I'm Probably Going to Hell." And it's all my favorite songs about the devil. That's probably my most listened to gym playlist.
Is the Grand Conjuration by Opeth on it?
It's not. No, I don't have any Opeth on it. So starts out.
It's a lot of older stuff, to be fair.
Yeah, I like a lot of.
But that's cheesy, like the Satan song.
It probably is.
I love cheesy, like.
She's gonna listen to something, not necessarily power metal, but she likes her 80s.
Yeah.
Like Iron Maiden and shit.
So yeah, so like my top 3. So I love to warm up to "Shout at the Devil" from Motley Crue.
That's Motley Crue for all you youngins.
That's my favorite warm-up song. Like, that gets me going.
Well, she's drinking Stout at the Devil.
I know, yeah. So I kind of think that might be what brought this on, was my Stout at the Devil. Yeah, so "Shout at the Devil" is my favorite warm-up song. And then I really love Iron Maiden's "The Number of the Beast." That's like PR song for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
And then "Blow Your Trumpet, Gabriel"
by Behemoth.
Is my like puke and rally song. I have my playlist programmed like that. So like I have a bunch of heavy shit in the middle, like Cannibal Corpse and Black Dahlia Murder and just like shit that makes you want to run your head through a wall.
Yep.
And then I kind of like towards the end. Oh gosh, there's a cover. Red Fang does a cover of
Hell's Bells.
Hell's Bells, And
which it fixes it because AC/DC sucks.
Oh my god, it's so good. It makes me want to crunch some nerds. So like that and the Behemoth song and stuff like that, kind of like I'm like, okay, I can finish this leg day workout.
Right.
And then I like round it out with some like Danzig and Ghost and some like
lighthearted metal.
Yeah. But it's pretty fun.
Alright, so I'm just going to do PR songs because that's the way I feel like doing it today. And to be fair, oddly enough, I haven't been... I've downloaded a bunch of new music, but I haven't... I'll be honest with you, I'm just fucking behind. Yeah. I have it downloaded and it's ready to listen to, but I just haven't done it. So that's the reason I'm just going PR songs. And the first one and most important, it's so good that I have a tattoo of it, is Worthless by the Acacia Strain.
That's a good song.
And if that doesn't make you want to run your head through a goddamn brick wall, I don't know what does. I mean, that makes me feel fucking powerful if anything does. That's fucking... that whole album's immaculate. Listen to it. But Worthless by the Acacia Strain is fucking awesome. And then Sandy's going to think this is funny, but because I have a talent when I've been drinking a lot... I can rap the Notorious B.I.G. almost any song in its entirety, but it does require me having 3 or 4 drinks in me. But I am
it's amazing.
In my old age, I have become passionate about rap music. I don't know how, because I'll be honest with you, I never appreciated it when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I love it. Does like the musician in me really wants music for music's sake, but there's a music fandom in me that really wants a story told, and a lot of people point to country music when it comes to telling a story, but I'm here to tell you that's dog shit. People that tell a story, if you want a story told in your music, rap is where it's at all day long. I can make a whole podcast about my rap preferences. But huge Notorious B.I.G. song, and one of the ultimate songs in the gym anywhere is Machine Gun Funk. And that song goes so fucking hard. It's so goddamn brutal for a rap song, and I absolutely love it. So that's definitely it's much more lighthearted than Worthless is. So that's definitely number 2 for me. Number 3, and this is back to serious shit, a little bit more serious shit in the gym. It is the absolute fucking goat of old school thrash metal, and that is Creeping Death by Metallica.
Yes.
It's a goddamn masterpiece, and you cannot fucking tell me otherwise. I've gone through it like a whole just list of Metallica songs that are important to me on a playlist, but I think the one that, even over Battery, even over Master of Puppets, the one that I come back to the most is Creeping Death.
Man, when that breakdown hits.
Oh, fuck, yeah, that's just like, it's it, dude. I mean, it's it. I mean, it's the... Creeping Death is elite on every fucking level. And then the one I'm going to get a lot of shit for, because I'm a real metalhead, and this is not a real metalhead choice, but I'm in love with this song, but it's Between the not Between the Buried Me, God.
Between the Buried Me.
No, it's not Between the Buried Me. Do not confuse that. That's a much, for the record, that's a much better band than what I'm about to say. I'm a little drunk. But it's Bring Me the Horizon's Kingslayer.
Yeah.
Kingslayer makes me absolutely want to tear a fucking room apart, and it has the Korean pop band Baby Metal in it.
He loves Baby
Metal. And I absolutely love that fucking song. That song rips so fucking hard. I can lift fucking anything if that song is playing. I promise. That's like, I don't know what it is. That's my goofy one. I had 3 serious ones and a goofy one, and I don't think it's going to get worse than Kingslayer, probably.
I've never listened to it.
It's a really good song. It really is. But it's very much new, Bring Me the Horizon, in the sense that it's not Alligator Blood, which is another PR song. I suggest not to just cramp this whole thing and take a 5th one, but listen to that song.
Yeah.
It's very lighthearted compared to old Bring Me the Horizon, but that song fucking rips. Kingslayer, listen to it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yep.
Awesome.
So now up on this is the meal prep episode, but to bridge that, we wanted to talk about fad diets, and me and Sandy have done about every.
Yeah.
It's kind of shameful to say as a personal trainer, but we've done about every fad diet you can imagine.
We didn't.
It's not,
we
I
didn't start out as a personal trainer, though.
No, I didn't.
And even
that's
so,
true.
I wouldn't say it's shameful because you're trying new things to see what works.
Yeah,
I even tried veganism one time, and
that lasted about a week.
4 days, and I was like, I want a goddamn steak.
Don't do that. That's disclaimer, people are going to get offended, and I don't really give a fuck.
Well,
Wes Harrison, if you're listening. Fuck you, man. Eat a steak, honestly. And I love you, for the record. But every major piece of sports nutrition literature in general says animal protein is vastly, not even a little bit, vastly superior to plant protein. Mm-hmm. And me and Sandy in our meal prep endeavors have discovered why, and it's because of amino acid availability.
So I'm taking my, studying to take my cert to be a nutrition coach. Mm-hmm. And in it, they talk about vegetarian and veganism diets. And if you opt to go that route, so when your protein source is incomplete, your body can't really absorb or synthesize protein properly. And so you have to pair certain foods together to make sure that you get a full amino acid profile, which I have never seen that talked about on any kind of vegan or vegetarian diet ever. So if you're eating, beans, you should also be eating rice with it to make sure that you get every single, the full spectrum of amino acids, because otherwise your body just doesn't absorb them as well as they should. And then if you're eating nuts, you should be eating grains with it. And I just, I don't know. I just think that's a big missing piece, and it
doesn't get talked about.
It doesn't get talked about. Yeah, I mean, and there's so many vitamins and minerals that you get from animal protein that you can't get from vegetarian
omega-3s. There's just a fucking litany of things. Iron. Yeah. It happens obviously in vegetables at a pretty high rate, but not like it does in red meat.
Well, iron. The big thing with iron is there's Hem A and non-Hem A iron. And non-Hem A iron from vegetables, it has a whole bunch of that, but your body just doesn't absorb it as well. And then there's also phytonutrients and stuff in beans and rice and grains also that cause you to not absorb iron as well. So if that's the only source of iron that you're getting, your body you're likely going to be short on iron.
Yeah, that's a problem. And nobody says that. First of all, nobody knows, when you take an iron supplement, do you know which type of iron you're taking?
Fuck no.
Exactly, you don't. Well, and this is not even, but that never gets talked about, and I think this isn't supposed to be political, but there's definitely an agenda to push us more toward a vegetarian or vegan diet, and those kind of facts, this is stuff that has been proven by science, does not get talked about enough in mainstream media or anywhere else about the shortcomings of it. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong, and we're going to talk about this in a second, with wanting to be vegan or vegetarian.
Right.
But again, those are things that you have to be, if you choose to do those diets, you have to be aware of. And I'll go ahead and say this. If you see a jacked vegan, there's probably a reason. And this is not calling anybody out or anything like that, but one thing that helps with protein synthesis, and one of the reasons why you want to take them, is performance enhancing drugs. Mm-hmm. So if you see a vegan that's not just ripped, not just skinny and no body fat, but if you see somebody that's elite level strength, stuff like that, and they're eating a vegetarian or vegan diet, the likelihood of them being on PEDs is probably 100% because it helps with protein synthesis. And if you have a deficiency in iron and protein synthesis, or amino acids and protein synthesis, PEDs is probably a pretty fucking good option. I mean, honestly. I mean...
Well, and the problem with, trying to supplement, other than PEDs, but, trying to supplement vitamins and stuff, is that none of that stuff is tested. And independent studies have shown on a lot of different types of vitamins, like melatonin, for instance.
Which I take regularly, so I'm about to get my balls busted probably.
No, but there's, they tested several different brands, and very few of them actually had the amount of melatonin in them that it said that it had. Some of them had way more, some of them had way less, and some of them had some compounds in it that it didn't advertise for. And so it's just, that stuff's not regulated by any, the FDA or anybody like that. And so you just don't know unless I can't remember what it's called. There's a website though that does independent testing, third-party testing of different supplements, and it does show the efficacy of certain supplements and things like that. But and you could probably research that and check it out, but you just have to be careful on that.
I was gonna say if you can remember or find that, we'll link it.
Okay, yeah, I'll try to find that. But yeah, I mean, like iron and stuff like that. Like, you know, if you take a supplement, who knows if you're actually getting what you think you're getting.
Right.
So we have I have 2 clients specifically that are on some type of diet that are similar and have done it to some great success. So a lot of the things I just said needs to be taken with a grain of salt, because you can be healthy and you can build muscle on a vegetarian or some type of vegetarian-based diet. So keep in mind, me and Nathan talked about this before, but there's not a lot of absolutes in fitness. The only absolute I believe in fitness is calories in, calories out. Yeah. And we're going to talk about that a lot today. But getting more into the fad diet thing is I have a vegetarian now. We eat a lot of dairy and a lot of eggs to help with protein. And again, those are animal protein, so it helps with the BCAA availability. He's actually a close friend of mine, an employee of mine, and I can monitor pretty well I got a pretty good idea most of the time of what he's eating, probably better than most clients. And he's done it to pretty great success. I mean...
For weight loss or for muscle gain?
Well,
a little bit.
He's primarily for weight loss. Okay. And there's some benefit to being a vegetarian or vegan when it comes to strictly weight loss, because when you cut a whole food group out,
it does inherently cut your calories.
Well, yeah, absolutely, inherently cut your calories. We're going to talk about more about that with keto and stuff like that. But with vegetarianism, you're cutting out a ton of fat that you would normally get from animals.
Right.
And the majority of his protein is coming from egg whites, not whole eggs. Matter of fact, this week he's on a water cut and he's going to get whole eggs for the first time in several weeks. You know what I mean? So, you know, he is getting animal-based protein and he is growing. Muscles coming up and body fat's going down and all those stuff's good. I will say this though, and this is no shot at him, but it does not happen as rapidly as it does in somebody that's on primarily meat-based diet. Right. The other person I have is a pescatarian. She eats vegetables plus fish, plus dairy. She also eats eggs. She has done it to great success, but I think I can attribute that to fish, because fish, for the most part, has a complete BCAA profile, and it also has not all of, but most of the things that red meat has in it. Right. So. Can you still do a vegetable-based diet and be successful? Absolutely. I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you, science says it is not fucking ideal to go without plant-based proteins. And anybody I've seen have success with it is either a vegetarian or pescatarian and still get some type of protein from an animal source. So it just is what it is. Yeah.
And I can't comment on any of that because I've never tried it.
Well, you know, getting into this is a good bridge to the next thing, in that I really believe this about diet. And there's so many people that have there's so many dogmatic views about diet. But the truth about diet and the truth about weightlifting in general is the best plan is the plan that you can stick to.
Yeah.
If you can stick to veganism and you can do the things that it requires to be healthy, have that full BCAA profile that Sandy talked about, do the thing that is required to make that diet work and at an optimal level, that's great. Don't have a problem with it. I do think that you make things harder on yourself than they have to be, sometimes doing those kind of diet. But if you can do it, do it. A person, and we'll tag him because he's an awesome dude. Something that gets shit on a lot is because it's popular right now, is carnivore and keto. Yeah. Me and you know somebody personally, he's a client of mine, and Albert Wisdom, and I only say his name because he doesn't mind us talking about him. Yeah. And his success is so good. There's not a negative thing you can say about Albert. Oh, yeah. As a human being or as a client, for the record.
He's a wonderful person.
Before he ever came to me, this is a man that saved his own life. And there is no doubt about this. He was 500 pounds. Yeah. This is a man that saved his own life with the keto diet. Yeah. And you have people in the fitness world that will just fucking flip their dick out on the table and shake it at you and tell you the keto diet don't work. Right. But I know in a practical sense, I have watched this saved this man's life. You know he was morbidly obese. He knows that too. Yeah. It changed his life forever. He can do things that he's never been able to do. He's stronger than he's ever been. Yep. He's fitter. He's happier. Everything about Albert, I know because he's told me, is better than it was prior to that diet. Yep. So, me as a personal trainer, though, I'm being honest about this, and me and Sandy have done it. We've done the keto diet, and I can do it to great success if I do what I'm supposed to. But again, just like the vegetarianism and everything, science says you're not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
Saturated fat leads to heart disease. Does this, does that, everything else. You have more fat in your diet than you have carbohydrates, so theoretically you're at higher risk of overeating your calories because there's 9 calories per gram of fat versus 4 calories per gram of protein. All these things, and you can just talk about that to your blue in your face, but I'm telling you, this man just fucking saved his own life doing it.
Yeah.
So, like, there's something to it. That being said, the something to it is pretty simple, and that's that he is, by eliminating an entire food group of carbohydrates, he has reduced his overall calorie count for the day, and he's been able to lose weight. And at the end of the day, again, I said the plan you can stick to is the plan that works.
Yeah.
He was able to stick with that. He ate chicken salad fucking 6 times a day for a year or two, whatever it was, and he lost 200 fucking pounds.
Now, I can't say because he spoke to me because I've known Albert basically my whole life. I remember when he was doing it, and he went to very, very strong extremes when he did keto. He was also doing 1 meal a day.
Intermittent fasting sometimes.
So he would be, and he would tell me, he would be like, I ate chicken and jalapenos and green peppers and just, because he was working at Domino's at the time, so he would just put all this stuff, and he was like, I made it as spicy as they could, so I would just shit it all out. So that basically I wouldn't have anything in my stomach. Yeah. Like he would eat it to basically satisfy the need to eat, but that was it.
Yeah.
So he went to really, which probably necessary, but he went to very extreme ends of it to lose that weight. Yeah.
But he saved his own life in doing that.
Yeah.
And I know he doesn't have a problem with me saying that.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you go from 500 pounds to under 300, that's fucking proofs in the pudding, bud.
Yeah.
I mean, you can fucking get it upset and puffy chested all you want to about keto not being good for you or not working, but it saved that motherfucker's life.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it. And he's a good fucking dude. We're glad to have him here.
Absolutely.
We're glad he made that choice.
Absolutely. So, talking about fad diets, though, I feel like a lot of the way that we eat now could be attributed to the Whole30. Because that's the first thing that we started when we first started working out. Paleo.
Paleo or Whole30 is basically the same diet.
Yeah.
And that's still largely, if I felt like I could get enough calories in, I need more calorie dense carbohydrates, especially I need rice and potatoes and stuff to to sustain our activity level. But still, we're very much, if we had an ideal meal prep situation, it would be as close to Whole30 as it could be.
Well, that got us on the track to eating whole foods, which we absolutely were not doing before.
No, absolutely not.
And didn't realize how shitty we felt.
That's another thing. It's a wild thing when you get in touch with your body. You don't know how bad things were until you're out of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden things are put in perspective. I don't know that I would necessarily call, and I'm saying this at risk of being criticized for it, and I really don't care because, fuck it. It is what it is. But I really just don't consider paleo or Whole30 a fad diet. Yeah. I really believe that's the closest thing to the way we should be eating as possible.
So explain that to me. Paleo.
Basically the paleo diets, if you can't pick it and you can't kill it, you can't eat it. So if it went through any process to become food, you can't do it. That includes dairy, fruit juices. It includes any type of meat that you couldn't buy at a butcher shop. So it's no deli meat, nothing like that. No sausages. Bacon is okay if it's nitrate free, but if it's been cured and nitrates or anything like that, you cannot have it. No potted meat, no canned vegetables. Now that's probably loose, but I think there's a heavy preference to raw produce section bought vegetables.
Yeah. Frozen.
Frozen's okay, absolutely. But most of the time canned stuff has additives, and that's the reason why we're canned. And then fruit is absolutely, you don't do dry fruit because it has sugar added, so no sugar added fruit, so basically fruit from the produce section, or frozen fruit. Like I said, no dairy, no sodas, black coffee with MCT oil or unsweetened tea or water. And The only thing like whole foods wise you can't have is you're not supposed to have white potato or legumes. So no beans and no white potato.
I think Whole30 has actually changed their stance on white potato.
They have. Whole30 has. Paleo I don't think there's a slight difference between the two. And mainly I think it's in the dairy and potatoes, right?
Yeah.
So,
so they're okay with the potatoes as long as it's not dairy. Like, so you don't do mashed potatoes.
Yeah, absolutely. You can do mashed potatoes, but Sandy actually has an awesome mashed potato recipe that has coconut cream and some other things in it, and that's actually a really fucking good mashed potato recipe.
Yeah, it's like ghee and coconut cream.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only dairy you can have on Paleo or Whole30 is either whole butter or ghee.
Yeah.
And I'm not
what
sure.
About raw milk?
Raw milk, all that's no go.
Well, so
really?
I think a lot of the Whole30, a lot of the reason behind it is trying to
improve gut health.
And eliminate any kind of
dairy.
Allergy. So it's like an elimination diet basically. Yeah. And then the goal of Whole30 is after 30 days you start to add back in certain food groups.
Okay.
Whole food groups is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Healthy still.
Like you take a week and you add back in dairy.
And if dairy doesn't bother you,
issues, then
you get to keep dairy. You know?
Just a warning. If anybody takes any time off of dairy, the first time you have dairy,
you're gonna shit your pants.
Problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is kind of like
that's probably telling in and of itself, probably. But like I have a specific story. Like, me and Sandy started Paleo in college, and I had gone like 6 weeks without any type of milk whatsoever. And you can ask Sandy, I'm an absolute whore for milk. I love chocolate milk. Everybody loves chocolate milk, but I love plain white whole milk. I can drink it with my spaghetti. I can drink it with cookies. Oh. I don't fucking care what it is. I can drink whole milk with anything, honest to God. And anyway, I was working, like many college kids, I was working in a restaurant, had a stressful night, late night. It was 1 or 2 in the morning. At the time, I was splitting time between me and Sandy's apartment and my mother's house because I worked in Coleman. We lived in Athens. It was a big thing. Got off work real late one night, stopped by the gas station, was like, fuck it, I'm going to have a whole quart of milk. Chugged that shit before I left the parking lot. In the instance I took that last drink, I had to shit my pants. I had to shit. Like, that's all there is. Like, when I tell you, and it was probably another 5 or 10 minutes to my mother's house, and when I tell you that I barely made it to that toilet, like, I'm talking about the instant that container left my fucking lips. It was like, I have to shit, and I have to shit right now. I almost shit my pants that day. And it was a long time. And a more recent thing is I had done the carnivore diet for about 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Me and Sandy broke down, and for Valentine's Day, I did World Carnivore Month in January, which is a normal thing. I had done that for 4 or 5, I guess it had been 6 weeks at that time because it was Valentine's Day. So 5-6 weeks. Sandy's, just like I'm a whore for white milk, Sandy's a whore for pizza. And Sandy said, let's go to Mellow Mushroom. And I said, you know what? I haven't had anything like that in forever. Went to Mellow Mushroom, and it did not mess my stomach up. But I had such a bad, like, allergic reaction to it that I had to take, like, half a bottle of Benadryl to, like, calm down.
Jeez.
Like, I couldn't fucking breathe.
Quit sneezing.
And it was from all the dairy, and it was from, like, the gluten and stuff I hadn't had in a while.
Yeah.
All that to say this, it doesn't mean I was allergic, but I had developed a sensitivity of it from not having had it in a while. I mean, that's just... So anytime you do paleo or Whole30 or carnivore diet, because those are elimination diets, you probably need to be careful about how quickly you add things in. You don't need to add things in on a binge because you will potentially shit your pants or not be able to breathe. Both those are high-risk things, just
ease
FYI. Just ease into it. Yeah, absolutely. I learned that the hard way. But no, we've messed around with keto. We've messed around with carnivore. I have. Sandy hasn't. Both of those
keto didn't go well for me, by the way.
For the record, both of those things did really well for me until they didn't. And the problem, we're talking about calories in, calories out. The problem with both those things is I can figure out what I like in both those diets and manipulate them to overeat. Yeah. Absolutely. And I have an admitted, and I'm in therapy for this. I have an admitted, binge eating disorder and a history of anorexia and stuff like that. So like I have an unhealthy relationship with food, but I would just figure out the things that I liked, and like with carnivore, you can still have milk.
Yeah.
So I would just drink a gallon of milk a day. That's a fucking lot of carbs and a lot of fat. So, I mean, or honey. You can have honey on the carnivore diet. So, like, fuck it. I mean, a bunch of honey. It is what it is. Like, dude, I totally will. So, like, the problem is, and it goes back to my original statement, the plan you can stick to is the plan that works, typically. The problem is, when you learn to manipulate those plans, and unfortunately, I like to consider myself, I'm a very emotionally intelligent individual. So, like, I can absolutely manipulate myself into thinking this is 100% compliant, but I'm still going to get what I want out of this. And I made the point the other day, the people that are successful at carnivore, keto, paleo, whatever it may be, or even veganism, are the people that are willing to stick to whole foods. Like the vegan that sticks to whole vegetables, whole beans, whole rice, unprocessed food, I guarantee you is more successful in fitness and overall health than the guy that eats Doritos and the purple bag Doritos and tofu. I promise you.
Oreos are vegan.
Promise you. Yeah, fuck Oreos are vegan. I promise you the guy that is eating whole vegetables is better off health-wise and everything else than the guy that's eating the purple bag of Doritos and Oreos. I guarantee goddamn to you. Yeah. I mean, it's fact. And the same thing with keto. If you're everybody's got, and I'm fat too, so I don't mind saying, if everybody's got that fat friend that's trying keto, if they're the type person that's dipping their fucking cheddar cheese and ranch dressing and eating salami or pepperoni or something as their keto meal, I got news for you, man. The guy like Albert that's eating chicken salad or a steak and broccoli for dinner, something like that, that's eating whole food is about to fucking smoke your ass. Yeah. Like, you're not gonna fucking do it on meat sticks and cheese. Like, as keto as it may be, as compliant as it may be, you're going to get your ass kicked by the guy that's eating steak and broccoli every time. Well, if you're a vegan, you're going to get your ass kicked by the guy that's eating whole vegetables and whole rice and whole beans every fucking time. It doesn't matter.
The thing about processed food is it is engineered to be addictive. I mean,
it's also engineered to be palatable, which causes it to be engineered to be.
I mean, it has chemicals and additives and salt and sugar and everything that is,
tastes good.
Tastes amazing. Good. Is meant to give you a serotonin bump. Like, it's meant to make you have cravings for it. I mean, it's addictive food, and it makes it hard to stop eating because it tastes so good. And it's hard to break that habit. Yeah. It really is. So
I think my heaviest recommendation, I'm okay if somebody can stick to a fad diet and do it well. If Albert, I 100% trust if he can go do keto and be 100% whole foods when he does it, I trust him to do it. When me and Sandy do Whole30 or paleo, that's fine. Not so much myself, but I can trust Sandy to do it. As Sandy, apart from being my wife, she's also a client. Like, if I tell her to do this, she can go do it. Again, the best diet's the ones you can stick to. But I will say this. In the world of athletics, just a plain old calories in, calories out, we're going to track macros diet is vastly superior. And I really do believe in the low-fat, high-carbohydrate approach, whether you're gaining weight or losing weight. And I think it's superior. I think it's been superior for me. I think it's been superior for clients. The problem is, as a personal trainer, and the compromise in this is someone willing to do it? Me personally, it stresses me out to log and track. So sometimes fad diets just work better for me because as long as I'm compliant, I know that I'm okay. But my heavy preference professionally is the traditional, stay away from weird fats, seed oils, stuff like that. Basically eating low fat, high carbohydrate, high protein diet. And I think that's tried and true is the way to do it. Now, the good thing is, and another diet me and Sandy have done, you've done, all three of us here have done, that's really, really good about a good macronutrient balance that could be considered a fad diet is the vertical diet. Yeah. And I think it's just in general, for a performance diet, this is not something I feel like everybody should be doing, but for somebody that's a powerlifter, strongman, CrossFit, or something like that, the fact that it's all super easy on your gut, there's no bloat in it, you can hit your calories easily. You can also eat under your calories easy. It can be manipulated super easy and 100% compliant to something, and it all tastes good. Vertical diet's pretty fucking far up there in terms of superior fad diets, in my opinion. And I don't know how y'all feel about that, but that's my take.
Well, I think the vertical diet in general is really meant for people that are consuming huge volumes of food, right? Like
and
it's easy food to digest.
Bloat is tied to huge volumes of food. Everybody that's done it.
Yeah, so that you can get more calories in and more nutrients out of the calories that you're getting. And, you know, he has a lot of guidelines for which types of vegetables and stuff to make sure that you're getting.
They're all low FODMAP. If you don't know the FODMAP scale, that's a list of foods from lowest amount of bloat cause to highest. And things that are high on the FODMAP scale, typically for athletic endeavors, it's not necessarily that they're inherently unhealthy. It's just that if they're more likely to make you bloat, anybody that's ever ate a shitty meal and strapped their belt on before a heavy set of deadlifts knows it sucks to be bloated in the gym. And that's the whole point of the vertical diet.
Anybody on
a healthy
bulk
gut
in general trying to go and strap.
Yeah, we know when you're eating, when you're eating 500, 600, or sometimes in Nathan's case early on 1,000 calories over maintenance. The bloat fucking sucks.
It sucks.
It sucks bad. And the beautiful thing about the vertical diet is, hey, I can eat 5,000 calories and not feel like I've ate 5,000 calories. And I think that's the whole. I think you're right. I think that's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
But, that being said, we've done a million fad diets. Take everybody through what we're doing now, how you meal prep, everything like that, because that's what we're here for tonight. Is we want to hear you talk about how you cook, how you prepare for it.
Okay, so diet-wise for me, I think the thing that works best is for myself is just calorie tracking and logging. So I know, at any given day what my maintenance calories should be. Right now I'm in a cut, so I'm eating 1,900 calories approximately doing 30-ish minutes of cardio a day and then plus my workout. But yeah, so I mean, for me that works the best. And then so I take my calories that I have to have in a day and I try to split that out over 5 meals, is what I like to eat. I have, time at work, I have break times and stuff where I can do that. I know not everybody can do 5 meals a day, but that works for me. So, so when you start to plan out like meal prep, that's the first thing that you want to do. Know how many calories you got to eat and how many meals you're going to eat a day. And then,
and that's based on, that should be said too, this is a trainer's perspective, that's based on convenience. Not all of you listening is going to have time for 5 or 6 meals a day.
Yeah. If
you have to do it in 2 or 3, that's fine. Just know that your volume of food, it's going to suck.
Yeah.
But
ideally, like, it's not so bad when you're in a calorie surplus, but when you're in a calorie deficit, protein timing is very, very important. So
I agree.
You want to make sure that you're getting a minimum of 25 grams of protein every, 3-ish hours at least.
And preferably a half hour before and a half hour after your workout.
Yeah. So deficit calories, it matters a lot more. Whenever you're in a surplus, I mean, you have to eat a ton anyway when you're in a surplus, but your body is not metabolizing the muscle that you already have as nutrition. For energy needs and stuff like that. So you can get away with not having quite so many, so frequent protein.
So an example of that is, before I hired Ron, I had a bodybuilding coach that had me on a cut and I was eating about 300 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
Sounds extremely excessive, but the fact of the matter is when you're in a calorie deficit, protein synthesis is much worse.
It is, way worse.
And because of what Sandy said, your body will actually cannibalize muscle first because it's higher in nutrients than fat is. So when you're in a calorie deficit, when you're losing weight, most people have a heavy tendency to lose a lot of muscle mass as they're losing weight. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's something both of y'all are living through right now, which is mitigated by the fact that 1, you're eating healthy diets, and 2, you're doing a program that helps with muscle building and endurance and stuff like that. But by and large, most people are going to lose muscle in a cut. And hitting that protein goal, an excessive amount of protein, is very, very important to maintaining what muscle mass you can in a deficit.
Yeah. I mean, so normally, like if I'm on maintenance or in a bulk, I can get away with like 30% of my daily intake of calories being from protein. But when I'm in a cut, I really try hard to shoot for like at least 40%.
Yeah, so my protocol typically for clients is 0.8 if they're in maintenance or a surplus, and then we're getting closer to 1 or 1.5 grams times their body weight if they're in a cut.
Yes.
It's typically my protocol. You can if you know somebody's really, really strict at eating, especially if somebody's in maintenance or surplus, you can get by with a little less. That being said, I definitely have a higher preference for the 0.8. But in a deficit, the 1 to 1.5 is definitely beneficial. Yeah. And I will say that working with Grant, that's the first time I ate as high as 1.5. And that's a lot of fucking protein.
Yeah.
That is a lot. But in general, I think that if you're shooting for about 1 gram per pound of body weight, you're probably about right, and even in a deficit. So.
Yes. But yeah, so I mean, basically, like, know your calorie intake, what it needs to be a day. Split it out over the number of meals that you're going to be eating. So I eat 5 meals a day. So I'm trying to get 400-ish calories in per meal. Sometimes I get more, sometimes I get less.
It all kind of comes out in the wash.
It all kind of comes out in the wash. The biggest thing is making sure that I hit my protein numbers at every meal. And so from there, whenever you know about what your calories look like, then you start to build your menu for the week. So what I do for Zach and I, because I kind of have an idea of, I've been doing this for a while for the both of us, so I know for us to hit our numbers, how many ounces of meat he has to have, how many ounces of meat I have to have.
Mine's generally 5 to 7, depending on what I'm doing.
Yes, yep. 5 to 7 ounces a meal, and then I try to go shoot for like 3 to 5 a meal. So yeah, I start, I decide what we're going to eat for the week. And I have a lot of recipes in the bank that I have researched and modified. And I know that a lot of people don't know how to do that. Because it's, most recipes that you find are meant to be palatable. And that's not to say, like, whenever you try to make them healthy or low fat or fit whatever.
They're still tasty.
Yeah, you can still make them tasty. But yeah, so research recipes that you think you want to eat, like, and then, you can look and see what it calls for. So, like, you can do a healthy baked ziti recipe that might call for like Italian sausage and some fatty ground beef, and you can substitute that for turkey sausage and lean ground beef.
Yes. And
it might call for full fat cheese, and you can sub in, low fat cheese and things like that. You kind of start to build. You figure out how you're going to modify the recipes, and you start to build a grocery list. So
I think, and when she's talking about modifying these recipes, and she said it in a pretty simple way, but if you find a recipe you like, it's just a matter of making better choices on ingredients.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, if it calls for, X amount of mozzarella cheese, if you want to make it healthy, it's pretty simple. Just buy low-fat mozzarella cheese.
Yeah, go part skim.
If it calls for ground,
amount if you have to.
Yeah, if it calls for ground beef, opt for 93.7 over 80.20.
Yeah.
I think people are really intimidated by making those substitutions, and they're kind of unwilling to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why people feel like they're missing out on food when they're on a diet, because they don't necessarily know how to do that. But it's not really something that has to be overthought. It's literally just as simple as, I'm going to buy low-fat ricotta cheese for this lasagna recipe, as opposed to buying. One thing that me and her use a lot is chicken Italian sausage. When she makes me lasagna pretty regularly. It's an awesome recipe, and I guarantee you, none of you would know that it was a healthy recipe when you ate it. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, the macros in it are great.
But it's just a matter of, she bought gluten-free noodles, she bought low-fat cheeses, she bought low-fat meats, and just follow the recipe outside of that to a T.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the modification she's made.
Yeah, use same spices, same cook time.
And I'm probably oversimplifying this to a degree, because Sandy's really great at what she does. But really, it's just about making, really, at the end of the day, it's just about making the healthier choice.
Yeah. Right, yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, I think people get intimidated by that. And especially, like, if you're trying to, like, food modifications, like, I can't have eggs. I'm allergic to eggs. So you can do research on, like, if you're baking stuff, an egg modification is like carbonated water. Who knew that? Yeah. But it does great in, like, baked goods. And, Zach tends to have a problem with gluten, so instead of regular noodles, we just make a swap to, like, gluten-free noodles.
Or hell, if we're doing grilled cheeses, we do sourdough instead of regular bread.
Yeah. Right.
It's just a pretty simple swap. Like, we're really not. I think the beautiful thing is, if I want a cheeseburger, she'll make me a cheeseburger, and it can be macro friendly. It's just the difference is I'm eating 93.7 beef where you're eating ground chuck.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's just, you know, is it as good of a burger? You know, if I'm being honest, like probably not. But I mean, let me ask you something. Would you rather have the cheeseburger or not have the cheeseburger?
Yeah.
I mean, most of us people have like. Most Americans have a problem with fucking shitty ass fast food style stuff, right? Like, and I'm here to tell you, I'm a burger junkie. Like, if it means eating 93.7, just give me the burger. Like, Like, I'll eat the 93.7. I'd rather have the burger than not have the burger.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's as simple as like the simple thing. If you have a gluten intolerance, like I tend to have, fucking sourdough bread's good. Like, I don't feel like I'm missing out on shit eating sourdough bread. To be fair, especially on a burger or something.
I ate sourdough bread for a year straight, pretty much, and that's
something I picked up from the vertical diet. I never would have known that.
For people listening, sourdough bread is less glutinous.
It's 99% gluten free, and it's because of the process it goes through. Yeah, because the fermented process of the dough, actually, what gets fermented is the gluten, so it gets changed into another type of energy, another type of flavor. So, because that gets burned in the fermentation process. It's largely gluten-free, and it's a very low bloat, super easy to digest bread. And I think most of you know that, you know, if you eat, we're in the South, right? So if you eat like the breadiest of breads is like a biscuit, right? If you eat a biscuit, it makes you feel like you fucking swallowed a cinder block. Yeah. Like you don't get that feeling with sourdough, and that's the benefit of it.
Funny enough, I had a biscuit maybe like a week ago.
And it makes you feel like shit.
It literally felt like a rock in my stomach. I mean, it was great. Don't get me wrong. I was like, this is so good. We went to Cracker Barrel, and I was like, I had the country boy, so it's like steak and eggs and apples and hash browns.
For the record, if you go to Cracker Barrel and order anything other than a country boy, you can get the fuck out now.
There's a couple
pancakes. You can do pancakes.
The blueberry pancakes are so good.
How many fucking country boys have you ate though?
Oh, so many.
Yeah, exactly.
This was before I was allergic to eggs.
When I worked there, that was what I would eat. At basically any point in time, like even at night, like if I did a night shift, I was like, I'm gonna have.
I'm definitely doing a country boy with medium rare steak, scrambled eggs with cheese, doing the apples.
Now I did
hash brown casserole.
I like to do my eggs over medium and mix it with my hash brown casserole.
Oh.
That's probably legit. I like an over easy egg on top of my steak too.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, so we do. We have figured out like steak rancheros.
Yeah.
And you do like...
She's allergic to eggs, so she don't get this.
I can't do this anymore. But yeah, I mean, we tend to do like a leaner steak, but it's so good with a ribeye. But you can do it with sirloin. So yeah, like just grilled steak and eat over easy eggs. And Valentino's is the trick with lime juice and cilantro.
Yeah, if you're not...
it's so good.
If you're not eating Valentina's, you're not fucking doing Mexican. You're not doing Mexican food right. Period. I mean, it's just there's no way.
Yeah,
that's the best. Like, that's elite in my world of hot sauces.
It's like not really hot sauce, and it's not really enchilada sauce. It's like
it's somewhere in between enchilada and hot sauce. It's spicy as fuck, but it has so much more flavor than like Tabasco or something.
Yeah,
like that.
It's so good.
We eat it on a lot of things. We use it as a steak rub the other day. We did a Valentina's base, and I did Valentina's and brown mustard as the base, and then we did a dry rub on top of that. It was just on a sirloin, so it's not spectacular, but it was pretty fucking elite. It was really, really good.
It was good.
But back to meal prep. We kind of got on a tangent.
Sorry. Yeah, we love food in here.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, absolutely.
Man.
But yeah, so you figure out your calories, you develop your meal plan. And so when it comes to figuring out what you're going to cook for the week, I do everything on Sunday. It's the day that I have off and have designated to meal prep. So when I'm picking out recipes, I try to make sure to pick out things where I can utilize the whole kitchen and be as efficient as possible, right? You don't want 10 things that's waiting on the same pot or oven time or the crock pot, right? Because then you'll be cooking for
Elaborate on what type of equipment we have.
So we have an air fryer, an Instapot, a crock pot, oven stovetop like most people, grill. And I mean, that's what we use the most. And to be honest, like the air fryer is a great tool. I don't whip it out that often. It's good for like we like to cook wings in it on like a weeknight when we don't have a lot of time, or vegetables are really good in it. But I just don't. Other than that, I don't.
So mostly when she makes this menu, she's planning for a grilled item, a stovetop or oven item,
and a crock pot.
Crock pot.
That's typically what I try to shoot for. So like a pretty standard meal prep week for us would be, I've got this Hawaiian barbecue like pork recipe that it's like cheater barbecue, and it's super easy. You just line the crock pot with like 3 strips of bacon, and then you get a lean pork like tenderloin, and you salt the shit out of it with sea salt, and then you just slow cook it for 10 hours, and that's it. You don't put anything else in the crock pot.
Can we all agree that one of the easiest and leanest sources of protein that tastes the best and is completely underrated is a pork loin?
Yeah.
I used to eat pork, like a pork tenderloin. Like
everybody talks about chicken and fish like it's the leanest fucking thing on the planet, but
pork
tenderloin is so fucking lean. It tastes so good.
Yeah, and it's easy.
Yeah, it's super easy.
So easy. So like we do that a lot, and then I'll pick something out for the stovetop, which tends to be something with ground beef.
So we like on that note, we like we do a lot of taco flavored things, like taco bowls with like white rice, taco meat, and some type of vegetable in it. Sometimes, most times, some type of kind of almost vertical diet compliant, and it's probably a bell pepper or something like that. And then another thing we do, because ironically white cheeses are relatively low fat anyway, so we typically do a lot of Italian. So she mentioned baked ziti, spaghetti. I think we're doing spaghetti this week.
Yeah.
That can all be done relatively low fat with gluten free ingredients, and it's good.
So this is kind of this. Well, I'll go over what we're gonna do for this week because it's kind of we're trying some new stuff. But yeah, and then I'll do like a grill meat. So I don't like to do chicken in the oven because it gets dry and it's gross. And we eat primarily chicken thigh because it's not that much higher in fat.
It holds over so much better than chicken breast.
So much better.
Leftover is so much better than a chicken breast.
Yeah, you're talking like 3 to 5-ish grams of fat. Like who gives a fuck about 3 to 5 grams of fat? Honestly, like if you guys are eating for performance, 3 to 5 grams of fat is nothing.
Negligible.
Right.
Yeah, negligible.
Just log the shit and cut the fat somewhere else.
Yeah, like don't eat the dressing, or like eat a tablespoon less. I don't know. Like it's not that big of a deal. But chicken thighs are way worth it. Boneless, skinless, and then I'll do like an overnight marinade, or at least 4 to 6 hours marinade in the refrigerator, and then I'll grill that because it turns out really good. So I do like an Argentine chicken recipe that's really good, and then like a Greek chicken recipe, and then just like fresh veggies and rice and stuff with that.
You've been tearing up asparagus lately?
Yeah.
Just fucking roasted like salt and pepper, roasted at like 450 or 425 in the oven for like 20 minutes.
With non-stick cooking spray.
with non-fat, non-stick cooking spray, and it is freaking elite.
It's basically 0 calories.
And then we do, she does another one that's, I'm a hoe for some okra. It's part of living in the South. I love fried okra. And traditionally, fried okra in the South isn't that crap that you get from restaurants that's completely coated. It's cornmeal and it's blackened, basically, is the way fried okra is supposed to be. But her okra recipe, it doesn't get the cornmeal, but she basically does a non-stick non-fat cooking spray, and then it gets cayenne, black pepper, and salt, and then she basically broils it, and it tastes just like homemade fried okra like we're used to here in the South, and there's like minimum effort, and it's fucking delicious.
Yeah,
like it's really good. She does it the same way basically the asparagus is done, and it's great. Yeah.
So something I didn't talk about is so whenever you do your calorie planning, you know how many grams of protein you have to have per meal. And then whenever you go to build out your recipe, I think that something people have a hard time with is deciding how much meat that they actually need to purchase. So you just take, basically your amount of protein that you have to have, and for that many meals, like if you're going to make 4 meals or 5 meals out of that, you like 25 grams of protein, and you multiply that by 5, and so you're like, okay, well I have to have this many grams of protein, and how much meat does that equate to? And you can do the calculations through MyFitnessPal or Calorie King, or there's a lot of good apps out there. But that's going to help you determine how much meat to buy to split between your meals. And then that helps you decide. So whenever you're building your recipes out, sometimes you can get away with the recipe as it is. Most of the time for us, I have to like double or triple the recipe so that we have enough meal prep.
Right.
The way that I determine that is how much meat we have to have. And because most everything is centered around protein, and then we just kind of add and subtract carbs and fat.
For me, something that happens a lot too that she's not telling you is because I have a higher requirement of calories and protein than her, is she might manipulate serving sizes. So if the recipe is supposed to serve 8, there might be a need for it to serve 6.
Yeah.
So and
I do that a lot too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's just a matter of plugging that recipe into MyFitnessPal and just simply setting the serving size from, instead of 8, you set it to 6.
Yeah.
And it splits it for you. But all that should be accounted for, hopefully. Like.
Yeah.
And again, I think she mentioned that obviously my calorie needs are different than hers, vastly. I probably eat twice or more than she does. But it goes without saying that, you need to be mindful of your serving size might need to vary from the actual recipe serving size.
Yeah.
So starting out, until I've been doing this for so long, it's hard to remember what people don't know. But starting out, I think a good thing to do before you go grocery shopping even is to build the recipe in MyFitnessPal. And if you don't have it, download it because that's a great app. So yeah, build your recipe in MyFitnessPal and play around with the numbers. You can go back and edit how many servings it makes until it hits your calorie needs and your protein needs, right? Yep. And then based on what that recipe says, that's what you go by. And eventually it becomes second nature, and you just know I have to have, when I buy chicken, I need at least a pound for a week for 4 meals, right? I need a quarter of a pound a day. Is what I need for a chicken meal. And Zach needs, so this week we're gonna do a beef stew recipe, like a veggie beef stew. We're gonna do a spaghetti recipe, and we're gonna do basically like Monster hamburger. Mash, right? We're doing Monster Mash, which is a vertical diet thing. It's just like rice cooked in broth, and then just some plain hamburger meat, and he can season it however he wants when we do that. So he can add ketchup or mustard.
Yeah, what I do is and then, because I'm a fast food junkie, I'm admitted to that. Tastes like a McDonald's cheeseburger if you do the vertical diet Monster Mash recipe, basically unseasoned, salt and pepper only. If you do mustard, ketchup, and dill pickle relish, and then a low-fat cheese, like low-fat cheddar, melted on top of it, tastes like a McDonald's cheeseburger. It's fucking excellent. You can eat it with a spoon, no bloat. Like it really is amazing what you can do with plain beef and rice, because you can make it taste like whatever the fuck you want to taste like. But
I figured out for 4 meals a week, Zach needs 1.5 pounds of ground beef. Yeah. And then that gets him about 6 ounces of beef per meal, like raw beef. And I like to do raw numbers because whenever you cook it, like if you cook it too long, it dries out some and you lose some weight, and it's a lot less accurate than just doing the raw.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what I do is I split it out between 4 meals. Like I get the scale out, and I just evenly distribute it between 4 different Tupperware dishes to make sure that and that's the most accurate way to do it.
Everything's done on a food scale.
Everything's done on a food scale. If you don't have a food scale, go buy one. They're cheap.
I was about to say, things that you're going to need for this, we should have done this in the beginning, but you need a food scale. You obviously need measuring cups, stuff like that. Because there are some things like rice that cooked a measuring cup. You're not just talking about weighing and measuring things that are going into a dish, but you may have things that are already prepped that need to be measured.
Yeah.
A serving of rice for me typically is about a cup. For Sandy, it's probably about a half cup. Like having, basic kitchen utensils, if you don't already have them, is important, super important for the meal prep process. And nothing more important than a scale, a food scale. Yeah. So, and then a measuring cup, because, if I like milk, fruit juices, stuff like that. It's incredibly beneficial to know you're drinking 8 ounces of milk and not 20 ounces or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. So,
Yeah.
Because if it's me, I'm going to drink like fucking 30 ounces of milk at one time. Sandy is my witness. I will drink all the milk at one time.
Just take the cap off and just chug it.
He does that sometimes.
So that being said, you're making us, is it fair to say you make us about 3 meals a day?
Yeah, so...
One together, we cook fresh every night. We typically do a steak and a vegetable.
Yeah, we do lean steak and vegetable, or fish and vegetable.
We did fish this week, yep.
And then like a lunch meal and then a breakfast meal. And then I don't know how Zach supplements his, which we're changing things up a little bit this week to give him some
fucking
more
fat. I need to get back in my fucking I need to get back in my weight class. I'm a little bit over right now. So I'm adding, Ron's already given me 10 minutes of cardio a day, but I'm going to go back to, I'm not necessarily doing 75 hard, but I'm going to go back to 75 hard protocol. I'm about to pick up the cardio quite a bit. And with the exception of podcast nights, I'm probably going to go no alcohol because I am in prep. You shouldn't drink alcohol during prep, FYI. But I'm about to go no alcohol, a significant amount of cardio back. And I'm also about to try to rededicate myself to a diet plan. And one of my problems, as I mentioned before, is binge eating. So what me and Sandy has decided is that we're going to go about 4,000 calories, which is about maintenance for me, to be fair. I'm going to go about 4,000 calories of loosely vertical diet foods. And I say loosely because
I did kind of sneak him on the vertical diet.
Yeah.
neither one of us have the patience to do all the horizontal part of the vertical diet. But we're basically doing loosely vertical diet foods.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm eating so many calories is I have a binge eating problem. So the hope is that if I'm just completely overfed with all this healthy food, I'm just not going to want to.
Not gonna want to eat it.
I'm not going to want to eat anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's the strategy there. That's what we're going into this week. I can imagine, Sandy probably has already done the math on this, but I can imagine the meat for me this week is going to be somewhere between 6 and 8 ounces instead of the 5 to 7. It's going to be significantly more rice. It's going to be, quite a bit more prep involved. And then breakfast, typically, we do put something pretty light. You want to tell them what we normally been doing? I turned Nathan onto this. What have we been doing for breakfast?
Oh, yeah, it's great. No, so you can do these sheet pan egg whites, and it's literally just carton egg whites poured into a sheet pan or a baking dish with, so heavily spray it down with some non-stick cooking spray. And then 325 in the oven for 20 minutes. And you get this perfect little stack of egg white that you can cut for sandwiches and stuff. So that's what we've been doing for Zach. Little English muffins with sourdough English muffins with egg white, ham, and then cheese. And
it's fucking awesome. They're about I think my macros work out. They're about 290 calories a piece, about 20-ish grams of protein. So I kind of get to mix it up. Most mornings I do it with a glass of milk, which I use Fairlife, so it's a little higher in protein, a little less in carbs. And then sometimes if I'm really hungry, I just eat 2 of the motherfuckers.
Yeah.
I mean, it works out. And most of the time when I do 2, I don't do the milk with it. But I mean, you're still talking about sub 600 calories for a relatively large breakfast.
So cheap too.
Yeah.
I mean,
so cheap and so macro friendly. It's so convenient for what we're doing.
This is basically what you were eating at Starbucks.
It is. So I'm a Starbucks hoe.
Quarter of the price.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm a Starbucks hoe, and I was going to get these, these turkey bacon egg white sandwiches. That's on an English muffin, and they're fucking $5 a piece. And I can literally have as many of those as I want to at home I can eat 4 of those for the price of 1.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. You know what I mean? That's what I started doing. I still buy my coffee out sometimes, but for the most part, I'm eating breakfast at home. And that's an extremely good hack. We got some other breakfast hacks too. Yeah. I'm a big fan of overnight oats. I've done that in the past. Yeah. I have a suspected allergy to oats now, so I've backed off on that. But you can actually do cream of rice recipes that are similar to overnight oats that are legit too. I have a box and I haven't done it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. But
so I can't eat eggs, so my breakfast looks a lot like some nitrate-free sandwich meat and sliced apples and peanut butter.
Poor girls have a pretty sad breakfast right now.
That is pretty sad.
But hey, you know what? It is hella micro.
We do. I would definitely suggest shopping at Publix too, because one thing we do sometimes is we buy nitrate-free sausage from Publix, and I think that's probably a little tastier breakfast option for you.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
But for me too, though, breakfast is such a thorn in my side because if I eat shitty at breakfast, I have a bad attitude about it, and I'll be like, "Fuck it, I'm eating shitty the rest of the day."
Yeah. It kind of
So
sets the tone.
most of the time, if I can set the tone and eat correctly at breakfast, it sets the tone for the rest of the day, and I can avoid some bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's so important for me at breakfast because for a long time it was fast food breakfast and might be healthy the rest of the day, but shit, I love breakfast food. I can eat 1,000 calories at breakfast, no fucking problem. Like, knock it down and be happy. Like,
I mean, a chicken biscuit from Chick-fil-A is so
for me, Chick-fil-A
egg and cheese biscuit. I always
for me at Chick-fil-A, it's a 10-piece chicken mini.
Yeah,
and that's 900. That's like 960 calories. Actually, pretty favorable macros for the record. I'm not necessarily condoning that because it's so much, but they are relatively favorable macros.
Yeah.
But that was my go-to for a long time. And then McDonald's order is 2 sausage McMuffins and an apple fritter.
Yeah.
And that's easily knocking down about 1,100 calories by the time you have your coffee with it and everything like that. So like.
Well, the last time
the breakfast part is really, really important for me in meal prep. Sandy recognizes that, and that's the reason why we've taken advantage of.
Yeah, and there's some other hacks we're trying this week, like we don't normally keep sodas at the house, but we did buy diet soda.
And the reason being is I've always been a Diet Coke junkie, but this is Sandy's idea completely. But if I stop in a gas station and buy me a Diet Coke, the likelihood of me picking up a Twix or a Reese's on the way out is pretty fucking high. So we've just decided we're going to start keeping soda at home, and y'all can like it or lump it. For the record, y'all need to listen to Lane Norton talk about aspartame, because if you think aspartame's bad for you, you can just like fuck all the way off. And that goes back to the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. We know sugar causes all kind of problems.
Yeah.
And we know it causes people to eat in a calorie surplus, and diet drinks don't have it.
Yeah.
So like you can bitch and moan about aspartame all you want to, but at the end of the day, we know sugar causes problems, and we don't. That study is about aspartame's like, meh, it could do this, but we don't really know.
Right.
So I mean that's our justification. But anyway, I'm a Diet Coke junkie. Sandy decides that we're gonna get Diet Coke so that I don't make that stop anymore. So it's just about, and I know this. I struggle with food. It's been admitted. But it's about making these like small concessions and making these smart moves so that you're just not put in harm's way, basically.
Yeah. And
if I have breakfast ready, I can put one of those sandwiches in the microwave for 45 seconds and it's ready.
Yeah.
Like at best, even if you go get fast food, you're going to be in the drive-through line 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So you're already saving. As a small business owner, I absolutely believe that time is money.
Oh, yeah.
So it's already saving me time.
When money is money, it's so much cheaper to meal prep than it is to eat out.
Absolutely. I mean, but if I don't leave the house till 10 till, I don't have time to go sit in a drive-thru if I have a client to train at 7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but I do have time for 45 seconds in the microwave, even if I have to eat in my car.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, it really even saves. How much gas money do you save just burning it up in a fucking drive-thru line?
Yeah.
And I have to tell myself this regularly because I fucking struggle with this. Like, my go-to meal, today before I went to the gym, I had a fucking bag full of chicken nuggets and McDoubles. Mm-hmm. I can fucking knock out fucking 5,000 calories worth of McDonald's like that, boy. Like no problem. Like, but the less you put yourself in harm's way, the less likely you are to be in harm's way. And it's just pretty fucking simple when it comes to meal prep.
Yeah. And
I think that it can't be overstated. The magic behind all this is the convenience. Mm-hmm. Does it suck for Sandy to have to cook 8 hours on a Sunday? Yeah, but that's the last time she has to cook that week.
Yeah. Well, like but these are the changes that you make, right? So now I have lunch ready for work. Mm-hmm. I don't have to leave campus at all to go get food. It's right there. So I eat really quick, and then guess what? I get to go take a 30-minute walk, which I always do every single day. I take a 30-minute walk on my lunch break. That's 30 minutes of extra cardio that I get in, where I would be changing on my uniform, driving to a fast food restaurant, picking up food, eating food, and then having to clock back in.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that now. Stay in my uniform, scarf down.
No telling how much money we're saving in the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let alone time.
Yeah, time and getting to add in healthy habits because you're not spending time somewhere else. So I think, and you can, so I feel like I've gotten meal prep down to be pretty efficient where I'm only spending like 3 to 4 hours a day now instead of 8 trying to cook, so
again, that comes from her strategy of, we're going to do one thing on the grill. The convenience comes from one thing on the grill, one thing on the crock pot, one thing on the stovetop.
Right.
And that's,
Yeah, and then plotting out your time too in the day, right? So like the first thing you do in the morning is to get your crock pot food on.
Yeah.
And then get your food that needs to marinate, get it in the marinade.
Yeah.
And then you can chill out for a little bit, and then later on in the day you start, actually cooking everything.
You start your vegetables and your
and your stove or your oven stuff.
All that stuff cooks fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all that stuff cooks really fast, and you kind of just get it all going at once, and you don't have to spend so much time in the kitchen. But it's still time well spent, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I've definitely enjoyed doing meal prep for myself.
Yeah.
I think it was 2019 when I really started meal prepping. It was about that was about the time me and you first started kind of getting together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would just, the first thing I started doing was like just chicken and rice, and then I'd have like steak and potatoes, because it was like I was trying to put on weight because I was 180 pounds. Yeah, right? Yeah. I was 180 pounds one time.
I know, it's kind of hard to believe though.
It's hard to picture. But you can see with his weight loss, because he's down 20 pounds, you can start to see like vague pictures of old Nathan coming through, but like he's still so much more fucking massive than he used to be. It's definitely I would say even at he's pretty thin right now, but I think even at that he's a much more massive 210 than the last time he was at 210.
Yeah, which I'm not even at 210 yet.
But you're 216, but still, like last time you were here,
214.
I guarantee you're a better 214 than the last time you were 214.
For sure. But
that's a good point though, because you did a lot of meal prep in the beginning, and you still do now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's underrated with hard gainers, because I think that as a personal trainer, I hear people talk about a dirty bulk so goddamn much.
Yeah.
Like eating this and eating that.
We need to talk about what my previous bulks have looked like.
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch of, I can have however much beer I want.
Yeah, that's basically, but Sandy, it boils down to beer. Everything boils down to beer and pizza. But for real though, you have these people they'll spend they're willing to spend like $20 on a pizza.
Mm-hmm. And
like, talk about meat and potatoes food. You know what's super cheap and tastes great? Fucking ramen.
Yeah.
Like you could be eating a steak and ramen every night to help get that weight on, and do it at a much higher capacity, a lot more food. And truthfully, even though ramen's super sodium heavy, probably do it a lot healthier than you would with a pizza or some shit like that. Like meal prep is even incredibly important, and you know this from having lived it. Meal prep's incredibly important for you hard gainers too.
Yeah,
100%.
Because a lot of people, and I've talked to people who are skinny too, and I'm like, yeah, I was skinny once too, and I did a lot of change, and they're like, oh, but I eat all this food, and I'm like, you really don't, because you're not tracking your food.
You really ain't got a goddamn clue how much you're eating.
You say, oh yeah, I know I'm eating 3,000, 4,000 calories a day. I look at them like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
I can look at you and tell you you're not eating that much.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want, but until you start tracking it, you don't know how much you're eating.
Yeah.
And that's what's made a huge difference for me.
One of the problems with people on a dirty bulk too, if they're talking about dirty bulking, all those things are, we just mentioned it, and we've mentioned it throughout this whole conversation. Those things are things that are high in bloat. Mm-hmm. If you eat pizza, you're probably going to be bloated afterwards. Anything that's super high in fat and then super high in like some type of heavy processed carb, like flour, stuff like that, typically going to make you bloat pretty bad. I'm glad you ate a whole pizza, but like if you couldn't eat anything for the next 12 hours because you had a whole pizza, are you really bulking?
Right.
I know, but you feel like you're bulking because you just made yourself uncomfortable with a pizza.
Yeah.
Like you ate 4 cheeseburgers at McDonald's, good job, dude. Like enjoy the next 4 hours of bloat. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to eat dinner now. Like, right. So there's so much power in eating a clean, healthy food, even when you're a hard gainer, because you can physically just eat more food.
Yep.
Like being smarter about it. Now I know you had to eat more calorie dense food. It's probably a lot more pasta than you're getting now. Mm-hmm. Probably a lot more bread, like
Oh, my whole
heartier carbs and stuff, like, and a lot, probably a lot higher fat. But at the end of the day, if you're eating healthier foods, you can have more of it. Mm-hmm. You can have more of it quicker. Talk about meal timing. Sandy is also a hard gainer. She's lived this too. If the healthier the food is, the more of it you can actually eat, because you're not swollen, bloated, and feeling miserable. And it really is understated, not talked about enough with hard gainers, how much value there is in meal prep for that reason.
Well, like being a hard gainer too, and you probably went through this where you're just not hungry. Like, you know, and that, you know, and if the food's not there for you, it's not already cooked for you to eat. Like, well, I'm not hungry. Why would I go through the effort of going to get food or cooking food?
Right. When you're already just like, I'm so full from eating however long ago.
Yeah.
You know, because
that's the devil of those highly palatable foods too.
And that I remember that struggle because it was every morning I'd eat my 4 eggs with however much ham and cheese, and then I'd be like, well, now I got to drink my mass gainer shake. And I would be sick to my stomach every time I'd drive to work drinking that mass gainer shake. And then I'd work for a little while, and I'd not be hungry at all, but I'd be like, I got to eat lunch.
Yeah.
And I worked at a restaurant at the time, so I made a sandwich, and I ate it, and then get through the rest of the workday, go home, like, I'm kind of hungry, I guess, but I'm not really hungry. I don't want to eat, but I know I have to eat, so I'd eat again. I'd go to the gym. By the time I get out of the gym, I'd be like, well, I'm not hungry, but I know I got to eat, and I'd eat again. And it was just that over and over and over again until your body finally adjusts to how much you're eating.
Yeah.
And then it became, oh, I'm a little bit hungry when I'm getting there, when I'm at my meal times. I'm hungry when I'm at my meal times.
Yeah.
So bulking, that's really all it is just getting used to how much you're eating.
Yeah.
And once you get to that point, it's like, oh yeah, it's so uncomfortable at first.
Well, especially, I mean, like eating healthy, like even on a cut, like I took all my food into work this past week, and some people were in the break room, like as I'm walking in, and like put my food in the refrigerator, and somebody that's not used to seeing me like eat at break times was like, "Are you gonna eat all that today?" And I was like, "This is the whole amount of food that I have to eat today." Yes.
Yeah. That's because so many people again are used to eating like highly palatable, super calorie dense foods, and they're used to doing it 1 or 2 times a day.
Yeah.
That's basically the American diet, right? Like we're gonna go eat, you know, close to you is we're gonna go eat fucking 1,500 calories and fucking McAllister's for lunch, and then you know 6 hours later we get home and eat dinner. It's going to be, you know, half a bucket of KFC and some mac and cheese, and then I'm going to bed, and that's the only thing people eat. But, you know, they've ate, you know, 4,000 calories before the day's over in 2 meals. I'm like, yeah, I understand that it physically Sandy ate more food, but
the quality of
the quality of the food, yeah, absolutely. And that's, again, you know, when it comes, my whole point of this was when it comes to hard gainers, like, do you need more calorie dense food? Sure, absolutely. Well, I'm telling you, in terms of the level of comfort and having a force feed and those things that you were talking about, my experience as a trainer says the healthier you can do it, the more comfortable that force feeding and stuff tends to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, the FODMAP scale really helps on a bulk because if you're eating things at a low FODMAP and you don't feel full,
it's a lot easier.
It's a lot easier to eat that next meal when you don't feel full.
Yeah. And it's easy on a bulk too if you're eating healthy food and you're meal prepping to just add more rice, or add a spoonful of olive oil to your rice.
Well, fuck, I've probably had 20 clients that are hard gainers, and I'm not gonna lie to you, most everybody I have initially, even if they come through me for power sports, I'm gonna cut them initially, because I want to see that they can dedicate themselves to a diet, and then we're gonna add weight after that if they need it, right? I don't know where I was going with this. What was your last point? I'm done.
We were all over the place.
But we were, you know, basically I always start somebody with a cut and make sure they can dedicate themselves to a diet. I remember now. A lot of times, this is the truth. A lot of times, these people will cut, and then out of convenience and know that they can stick to a healthy diet, I will have them do the exact same diet and just add a mass gainer shake or 2 a day.
Yeah.
Not a lot of fucking science to it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this has worked for you. Do you feel good? Does this, you know, do you feel light? Do you feel athletic? Do you feel nimble? Great. Like, let's pick up some weight now. Let's do a mass gainer shake a couple times a day. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a supplement. You can make that stuff at home, with whole milk and peanut butter and whatever protein source you want to buy, or, you know, that stuff can be done. Hell, old school football players used to do it with milk and peanut butter and honey sandwiches. I mean, there's a million ways you can do it. But, you know, you basically add 2 massing meals a day and leave them the same.
Yeah.
I've had several clients that's worked out really, really well for. My good buddy Chris Therese is actually really fucking strong bench presser. super, super tall guy, and you'd never think that he was as strong as he was. But, I mean, he ate relatively healthy most of the time. We did 2 mass gainer shakes a day. In total, he was consuming about 5,500 calories, and he just got fucking strong. Like, with very, very little, you know, and didn't really eat any bullshit.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can manipulate, you know, if you're a hard gainer, you can manipulate it that way. Like, great, like, if you're used to a healthy diet, you want to continue a healthy diet, good. Just add 2 of those shakes a day.
Yeah.
Seems cheap. It doesn't necessarily seem like the professional answer, but calories are calories.
Yeah.
Whatever's comfortable. So, but I definitely highly suggest, even on a bulk, I don't think I necessarily believe in the dirty bulk. I do believe better high quality foods, and then more of them is the answer.
Yeah. I think so too.
Especially from an athletic standpoint, because when you just eat bad foods all the time, you just don't feel good when you're in the gym, you're working out. And it just ruins your whole day.
Yeah, I mean, a bloat can keep you from getting in a good position on the deadlift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It can really affect. I don't know if you've ever ate a classic powerlifting mistake. Go eat some fucking hot wings and then go back squat.
Oh God, and have
and tell me you don't want to vomit after
time.
every freaking rep.
Yeah.
Or
That's a classic example. Like, don't eat fucking bullshit before you go to the gym.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're bulking, cutting, maintaining, whatever you want to do. If you eat bullshit, you will fucking pay for it.
yeah,
Period.
or eat something that upsets your stomach, and then you're shitting your guts out the whole
Yeah,
workout
so
session.
that's
that happens too. I mean,
I could
that
have a whole
sucks.
I could have a whole fucking podcast episode on this tirade. I had to learn this the hard way. I've always been a caffeine junkie. I've always liked my pre-workout. But let me tell you something. Caffeine in small doses can absolutely increase performance. But if you're taking some of these extreme pre-workouts, and I'm a owner of a nutrition store that sells this stuff, these really, really high caffeinated pre-workouts, if you're a power lifter in particular, I can't say everything about, maybe less so in bodybuilding, but if you're consuming so much caffeine that your heart rate's so jacked after a set of 8 or set of 10 that you're having to puke or feel like puking, you've had too much caffeine. That is not performance enhancing at that point. You're not adding anything to your workout. You're being miserable for no good reason. And one of the smartest things I've learned about my diet has been caffeine restriction. And when employed correctly, it is a performance enhancer. Mm-hmm. But when you're just overdoing it all the time, it can absolutely hinder you from a workout.
Yeah.
Take a scoop of pre-workout that's extremely strong that you're not used to, and go try to pull a set of 10 on deadlifts. And if you don't feel like puking, you're fucking lying to somebody. Especially, you know, us bigger guys that have a little higher heart rate, a little higher blood pressure anyway. It is not particularly comfortable. Sandy's a very small, very fit person, and she's never liked it for that reason.
No, I don't like. I mean, well, I'm really sensitive to caffeine anyway, but I hate the high heart rate feeling and not being able to, like, you feel like you can't catch your breath. You can't recover between sets. I don't know. I just don't. It makes you feel like you can't, you know, taking a rest between sets and getting your breath and slowing your heart rate down is really important to having a good next set. And whenever you have too much caffeine in your system, you can't do that. And it's hard on your nervous system, and I don't know. There's a lot of
that goes understated in nutrition, how much you're actually supplementing. I believe in, you know, a protein supplement can be convenient. Creatine is the only thing over the counter that is proven to help performance and stuff like that.
I like a pump because they're fun.
Yeah, a pump is a fun product, to be honest with you. And they are good for heart health if they're not accompanied by that 400 milligrams of caffeine you were talking about. You know, there's stuff like that, you know, I don't necessarily have a problem with, but I'm here to tell you, pre-workout's overrated, and I'll tell you where it's especially overrated, not just in the gym, but it's on meet day.
Yeah.
Especially when I have a new lifter on meet day. Everybody's nervous about squats, and everybody knows it's done a meet. When you get the first squat out of the way, it all feels a little bit better. But anxiety is so high, do you really need fucking 400 milligrams to the ticker and to be just more nervous?
Right.
Is that really fucking good for your squat performance?
Absolutely
no. I mean, you know, if you want
command or
you know, you get squats out of the way. If you want to take a little pre-workout before you bench press, before you deadlift, I'm all about it. But like, God, that can be a bad recipe, especially for a new lifter that's going to have all the nerves anyway. But I guess that's my end of my tirade on pre-workout. But that's all part of meal prep and part of what we're doing, though. I mean, that's the truth. I mean,
It's also
It's part of something you're consuming, and it is what it is. And in that same vein, talking about Sandy meal prepping for me and everything else, it should be noted that even though I'm eating mostly meal prep, because my protein requirements are so high, it's pretty normal for me to supplement either with skim milk or with a protein shake or two in a day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I mean, like,
I have to have about 250 grams of protein at a minimum, so it's pretty normal for me to. Don't feel bad about supplementing your protein.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a big man. 300 grams of 200 plus grams of protein is difficult.
Yeah.
That's all it is to it. So.
It is.
Typically, lately, I've been in anywhere between 200 and 240. That's kind of like my range. I usually end up right at 220, which is a gram per pound. And I kind of just lost my thought there.
The same thing happened to me.
It just kind of just like oof.
Too much blue curacao.
Maybe so. It just blew my brain out, I guess.
The protein intake.
Yeah.
Are you supplementing protein? That's what we're talking about.
Yes, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. So typically it's like about the same as you. Like I want to say I usually do about a half a pound of whatever meat I'm using. That's what I do for my meals. But I always have a protein shake every morning because
it's convenient.
It's convenient. I do tuna pouches.
I used to put protein powder in my overnight oats. My overnight oats recipe calls for it. So when I eat those oats, it's typically 30-40 grams of protein. And then I typically do about 20 grams of protein in milk if I do that meal. So, 40 to 50 grams of protein at breakfast. The sandwiches, about 20 a piece, and I'll drink about 20 in milk. So about 40 grams of protein for me at breakfast is normal. And then I'll drink, for a snack, I'll drink 2 or 3 cups of milk at a time. Or I will supplement, I like the Core Power brand protein shakes.
Yeah, they're
42 grams. They taste like a milkshake. They're great. But rarely ever do I use protein powder at home unless I'm baking with it or making the overnight oats or something like that. I typically just don't like that shake too much. So
I was just pulling up my Fitness Pal because that's where I track all my stuff, which I'm doing very similar to you, the English muffins. Once you told me about them, I made them last week. Mostly, and it was a really good timing because I had to work like really early 2 days out of the week. So like, there's no way I'm getting up because normally I do scrambled eggs with like ham, and that's my breakfast. When I started doing the muffins, I use the whole eggs because I just
tastes better.
It does taste better. Yep. But mine turn out to be about that's with the protein shake, but about 500 calories for one of mine.
Including the protein shake?
No, that's just
the whole egg, because you're using the whole egg.
Because the whole egg, and then I'm doing it's like roughly 1.5 eggs.
So quite a bit more. You got a quite bigger sandwich than I do.
Yeah, my sandwiches turn out pretty big, but it's great. I like them.
Yeah, it's solid. And part of this meal prep thing, and I don't feel like I really feel like we could almost do a whole nother episode on this because we really didn't get in depth enough. But I think that people have this idea that they're just going to have to eat fucking chicken and broccoli and white rice for the rest of their life.
No.
But I think the biggest takeaway from this is we absolutely eat the things that we want to eat.
I mean, I probably last week, no, it was 2 weeks ago, because of the way my macros were broke down, and I kind of changed things up a little bit. I had a little, lower carb, higher protein things earlier in the day. I had calories and protein left over at the end of the day. I had 2 or 3 pieces of pizza one day.
Yeah.
Because my calories were there, my protein was there. There was no problem with it.
Yeah.
And when I think that's something that people don't really pay attention to.
The power I guess I'm getting at is being able to cook at home. If I want lasagna, or like we said, we're having spaghetti this week. We're having spaghetti. Is it cooked with low-fat beef? Sure. Is it going to have low-fat cheese? Yeah, sure. But don't again, I said this about the cheeseburger earlier, but don't you think eating that is better than not eating that?
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, it's still better than what you're going to buy at a restaurant when it's homemade.
Yeah.
Even if the restaurant uses full-fat ingredients, you're going to get some bullshit compared to what it is homemade, right? So, I think that for the most part, we pretty much eat what we want to and manage to do it pretty healthy.
Don't sacrifice a lot of flavor.
No, we really don't. And, and not, we season our steak like we want to. The difference being is I would much prefer a ribeye, but because I only have X amount of calories in a day, we eat sirloin, and I'm a huge beef eater, so to me, a steak's better than no steak.
Yeah.
I'll eat the fucking sirloin.
Yeah.
If it means
I
not
enjoy
having steak.
sirloin, to be honest with you.
You know, I've had a lot of. I think actually my coach Ron's talked about how he prefers lean meat over a fatty meat. Yeah. I don't, but I can eat it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It is what it is. And like I said, a steak is better than no steak.
Yeah, and you learn like too whenever so cooking is a lot of trial and error, and it's really scary to start out with. Yeah. And it feels very overwhelming. I mean, I haven't always been a good cook. I ruined our first set of cast iron skillets that we had because I didn't know how to cook in them or take care of them. And we did a lot of box dinners when we were kids because like box chicken pot pies and stuff like that. And, oh gosh, some like god awful baked chicken tender, like, things with like dry seasoning, they were dry shit and didn't taste like anything. I mean, it's like just like sad.
There's a ton of trial and error.
Yeah.
So that brings me to this will be a good closing point. And we asked Elizabeth this about her bodybuilder show last week.
Oh, so Elizabeth's meals make me so sad.
Well,
and I know she won't mind me saying
yeah, she can.
Because I've told
she absolutely
that,
that girl can absolutely just mechanically eat plain chicken breast and broccoli better than anybody out there know. But. What I did ask her though, we asked this about the bodybuilding show, but we're gonna ask this about meal prep. What advice do you have to give somebody just starting their meal prep journey?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is this. So this helped me a lot whenever I heard this advice, and it was if you get overwhelmed, if you feel like you got too much going on in the kitchen, because it's really easy to do when you're meal prepping. Especially if you're trying to be efficient about it, and you've got too much on the stove and something on the grill, and you can turn the heat off. Turn it off, right? If you feel like you're like,
don't burn it, don't ruin it. Yeah, just fucking stop.
If you feel like you're panicking about something, just like take whatever is on the stove off the stove, or turn the grill off, and like collect yourself and get things in order, and you can turn the heat back on and start over. But like, that's the biggest thing is like it's so easy to get overwhelmed, I think, whenever you're starting out.
One good thing that you could do is just kind of like, when you first get started, you just do one thing at a time, and you gradually add in things like, okay, I know I can handle the grill and the stovetop at the same time. Same thing with like working in the kitchen. Like you eventually just kind of get to a point where you can handle everything that's going on around you. And it just becomes second nature. Right.
You start to like, you got meat browning on the stovetop. That's whenever you start chopping your veggies to add into the pot, right? Like, if you feel like the meat's browning faster than you can get the veggies chopped, just,
So in total, your summary of that piece of advice is just make it as easy as it needs to be to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And start slow, and give yourself some grace, because the first things that you cook are probably not going to turn out so good. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad cook. It just means that you're an unpracticed cook.
One thing that you've told me 1,000 times is it's just about following directions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. And it does take practice. I understand that, but it's largely just about read the recipe, do what it tells you.
Yeah. And like Nathan said, if you have to start out with one thing at a time, until you can learn that recipe. And once you start cooking a lot, you start realizing a lot of patterns to recipes. A lot of things kind of follow. Like now, so I started with a Greek chicken marinade. And it's like, I don't know, a tablespoon of red wine vinegar and a quarter cup of olive oil. And then like you have your seasonings that you measure out and your lemon juice. So now I've taken that and I've modified it and I've made all kinds of different marinades out of it, just with different flavors. So I do like a chili lime marinade now. It's the same exact makeup.
Same base. You're modifying the spices.
Modifying the spices. Instead of olive oil, I use avocado oil. And instead of red wine vinegar, I use, apple cider vinegar and, lime juice instead of lemon juice, different spices. And you start to, the more practiced you get, like I said, the more you can pick out patterns and it starts to become second nature, and you can do it faster and you can do more things at one time. And But it just, don't be afraid to get in and get your hands dirty and just, start.
Yeah.
So.
Anything else to add, advice-wise?
I don't buy a crock pot if you don't have one. Buy
get the equipment.
Buy a crock pot and a rice cooker.
Yeah, I don't do a rice cooker.
You don't
should.
my.
Yeah, we actually had a conversation about that today. Yeah. But again,
I do jasmine rice on the stovetop.
No.
Okay.
It should go without saying. You definitely need that food scale I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. So rice hack. Always cook it in some kind of broth instead of water, and salt it if the broth is unsalted, and it will make your rice taste so much better.
I'm just saying this. I used to cook rice on the stovetop all the time. That's how I always did it. I started watching Uncle Roger, and rice cooker. And eventually I was like, you know what? They're not expensive.
Yeah.
It's like $20 or $30. And it is the best rice I've ever eaten.
I like that good sticky rice texture.
Yeah, it comes out perfect every time, and it makes life so much easier.
Yeah, okay.
Which I'm not eating rice right now, unfortunately. But when I do go back to eating rice, I'll be using that rice cooker. We went through 2 rice cookers in a year because we used them so much, and they were cheaper ones, so they would just break down.
Yeah.
It's the best restaurant.
Okay.
So I think it's about time to wrap it up. But we're talking about advice. I feel like this has to be mentioned because we're in December. What advice do you have for people in the holidays about the meal prep?
I mean,
y'all saw her face.
It's hard. I mean, holidays are hard. It's hard for me, and I feel like I have pretty good self-discipline, but. You go to parties and you want to drink, and there's always something delicious to eat, and you want to try a little bit of everything, and it's a hard thing to navigate. I mean, I feel like I did really good this Thanksgiving. I only gained a pound. I had been on a cut, and and that wasn't a pound over like Thanksgiving. It was like the whole of November was kind of hard for us as far as just being busy and traveling and some other stuff, and. But, I have to say, I think Thanksgiving was easier for me because I am recently allergic to eggs. And in the South, everything that's delicious has eggs in it. Sweet potato casserole,
so
dressing.
She really didn't have a choice.
Dessert has egg in it. Yeah. So I ate meat and green bean casserole a lot. At every holiday party we went to, meat and green bean casserole, because I knew that was like safe options. But yeah, I mean... I think eating low carb the day that that you're going to go to somewhere like, a holiday party where you're going to be either drinking or eating desserts. Just try to make sure that you're getting plenty of protein in during the day so that you're not starving whenever you get there. But keep it low carb during the day so that you're cutting calories out. It's really easy to binge drink over the holidays, but I think, limiting your alcohol intake is huge because that's just unnecessary calories that you don't need. And sure, alcohol's fun, and this is called sipping and ripping. But I mean, these are also probably the only drinks.
It is empty calories though.
Yeah, I mean, it is like
it is at the end of the day, meal prep wise, goals wise in the gym. Despite the name of this podcast, despite that we're going to drink every time we're on this podcast, it's bullshit for your gym goals.
It is. Yeah, it is.
It's good for your morale.
It can be good for morale. I mean, everybody likes a shot of whiskey before they deadlift.
I was going to say whiskey.
Yeah, it's fucking good. It is what it is.
And
that's kind of where the name of the podcast came from.
I think to add to what Sandy's saying about holiday food though, and I think we've seen some of this culture shift, especially with my mother. Probably not so much with her side of the family, but you can bring healthy dishes to these things that taste good.
Yeah.
Sandy's gone as far to make, relatively healthy desserts that have been good before.
My aunt makes these awesome Brussels sprouts that are like, nothing bad in them. They're all whole foods.
Mm-hmm. Well, you do have the option to bring whole foods dishes, or even if you want to bring a dessert, you do have the option of using whole fruits and maybe honey instead of a processed sugar, or maybe even a sugar substitute. I mean, there's a million things that we've done. We've done like the Oreo bites that people do with cream cheese and Oreos and stuff. We've done a healthy version of that. Like those things are possible. Like you can contribute positively to your family's holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a lot of these recipes, if you don't tell people that they're healthy, they'll never know.
Yeah.
Honestly, like if you run your mouth about it and say like, "Oh, this is a healthy version of this," people are automatically gonna be turned off by it and not want to eat it over the holidays. But if you just set it down on the table like everybody else does and let people eat it, they're never gonna fucking know. Like you can be a positive influence and do something contribute something healthy to your Thanksgiving or now Christmas dinner. Honestly, so
yeah.
And I will point out, just because I saw this recently, Lane Norton was I think it was Lane Norton was talking about, over the holidays, people eating too much. And he kind of was just like, instead of like thinking about it, so like, oh man, I'm going to gain so much weight. I think what he said was typically you would gain like 0.2 pounds of body fat over one bad day of eating. Mm-hmm. So don't stress too much about it.
Yeah.
The stress will probably make you gain more weight than the actual food will.
That can literally be gone in another day or two of solid dieting and plenty of water drink. So
as long as you just keep that in mind, I mean, I'd say, there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking healthy food. There's nothing wrong with trying to eat correctly during the holidays. But if you decide, hey, I want this potato casserole.
It's not an excuse to quit on your diet or do
don't be like, I screwed up one day. I just don't.
I can't do this. I'm dumb.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, that's a detriment. And listen, it's hard, especially here in the southern part of the United States. I know this is true of the rest of the United States too. We celebrate everything with food.
Yeah. We do.
Everything in the South is celebrated. If somebody died tomorrow, we're gonna have a potluck for it.
Yeah.
And then people would be bringing you food for the next 2 weeks.
Because they feel sad for you. You know what I mean? Here's your you're grieving. Here's a pan of so-and-so's homemade mac and cheese. Or here's grandma's favorite cake or whatever it may be. And that's just the way we deal with things. And it's unfortunate to some extent. But like those little things, holidays, people passing away, things we typically celebrate with food. Like you said, you gotta kind of take it in stride. Mm-hmm. You don't have to let one day ruin your whole week, and for that matter, you ain't gotta let one meal ruin your whole day.
Yeah. Right.
If you fuck up at breakfast and have a stack of pancakes, just know the next 2 or 3 meals you need to have
super
chicken and rice, something like that. You know what I mean?
Very lean.
Yeah.
Or a vegetable. You know what I mean? Just have a couple of salads the rest of the day, even it out. Don't let it be the end all be all. And
mindful eating at holidays is big too, right? If you're gonna eat the bad stuff,
prepare.
Yeah, plan for it.
Eat a healthy breakfast and eat a healthy lunch. And then when you get to dinner, do what you need to.
Eat slow and savor it. It's good food. There's a reason why we like to eat it.
A fault of mine is when I get to one of these holidays, I don't want to take my time. I want to eat 6 of everything, and I want to do it 2 or 3 times.
Take the whole pan.
Yeah, exactly. Sweet potato casserole at Thanksgiving, dude.
Yeah.
And I was going to reiterate that your family are communist if they put marshmallows on top instead of brown sugar and pecan.
What about both?
Both is acceptable. Yeah, absolutely. And then
I'm a fan of both.
The variation of the pecan brown sugar combo is fine too. Like I was talking to somebody that said that their family puts coconut in their brown sugar pecan combo.
Yeah, I could see that.
I'm good with that. I'm on board with that.
I would try it. I've never had it. So.
But just the marshmallows.
Yeah, just sweet potatoes.
Your family has an inferior Thanksgiving, and you probably should be rounded up and shot.
I can say this because I know my mom won't listen to this, but she likes. I think you actually like these. She likes those candied yams. I do casserole.
I do like those, but that is not a suitable replacement.
No,
for sweet
but
potato
that's her replacement for sweet potato
that
casserole.
Sucks.
It does.
I will say this too: anybody that happens to be up north listening to this. Sweet potato pie is superior to pumpkin pie, and I will fucking fight you.
I like them both about the same, personally.
That's the same idea. Just one has a superior ingredient, and the other one has an inferior ingredient.
I guess I don't know.
But they are the same pie. They are the same pie.
The texture's the same.
The colors.
Their flavor the same. Colors the same. Yeah. Sweet potato is just a little richer, and it's not a squash. It's an actual it's actual dessert ingredient versus pumpkin is just like, what the fuck are you even doing here? A blind taste test of pumpkin pie and sweet potato pie.
We should do that.
We probably should. All right, so we've ran longer than we've ever ran. Dad jokes.
Dad jokes. I have a food one.
Let's hear it.
That's great.
Did you guys hear about the tornado that hit the cheese factory?
I did not.
There was debris everywhere.
I like it.
That's a good
I
one.
like it. What about you, Nathan?
I don't have one prepared. I'll have to look one up. You can go ahead.
What do you call a guy that just finished digging? Doug.
Oh man, let's go see what Dad Says Jokes has for us today. What do you get when the sunrise bends over?
What?
The crack of dawn.
I like it.
I'm always a fan of a butt
Absolutely,
joke.
I like it.
That's a good one.
All right.
Dad jokes are checked off. This is the longest episode yet. We talked and talked and talked and talked.
Oh, that's fine. It's kind of one of
Food's
those.
a complicated subject.
Yeah, I
It
really
is.
do think we could probably do a whole series on this because,
Yeah.
like, even the advice she gave y'all is just like scratching the
Oh my God, I
surface
know,
of
yeah.
meal prep.
And that's just like we could go into the minute details of like. I lost it again. I'm sorry.
We can do the
There's
minute
just a-
details of literally every part of it. To
Yeah.
be fair to you, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
so eventually I want to launch a meal prep cooking class. So,
Yeah.
you know.
yeah, there's a million meal prep services, right?
Yeah.
Right. Where they make the food, bring it to you.
Yeah,
or
but there's
ship it to
nobody
you.
that teaches you how to do it. But Sandy definitely has that capability.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I've helped, Elizabeth and Casey came over one day and taught them how to grill because they just didn't know.
Right.
And so we went over like the basics of that. And I just think there's a lot of people out there that don't know how to cook and are too intimidated to try.
Right. And a class would just be helpful.
Yeah.
They could just go there and instead of being like, oh, I don't want to burn all this food that I got or whatever. They
Yeah.
could go and learn exactly what they need to do.
Yeah. And it it's like anything. Once you get into it, it's a lot less scary than you think it is.
Yeah.
Once you just get started, you can handle it. You can
Yeah.
do it. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
Right.
But yeah, so
Lots of practice, but y'all can do it. It's a really good thing.
yeah.
Positive thing in your life. It does take some discipline, but it does. If you're willing to get into it, I can freely admit, although I do none of the work, it does make your life a lot easier. to have it done.
It will change your life.
It will absolutely
Yeah.
change your life. That being said, we're going to link that playlist we mentioned earlier in this episode. And then next episode, we're probably going to have kind of a local legend on, and Austin Blair.
Yep.
He's a great powerlifter in his own, in his own right. Has a ton of experience. Super fucking good dude. Good friend to me and Nathan. Has kind of been a training partner to both of us, although we kind of all do kind of train at different times. But we're around each other a lot when we train, I should say. So, but he's a really, really badass dude. And I think this will be the longest layover we've had. I think it'll be because I'm coaching next week in Nashville. We're probably 2 weeks out from our next episode. So, but anyway, Austin will be the next person on it, and we don't know what we're going to talk about. Knowing Austin, it's probably going to be some kind of crazy like Japanese porn or something. He's a weird ass.
Well,
Hopefully he doesn't make me talk about anime because anime's lame.
we are going to talk about one specific thing we did want to touch on was sports rivalry.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned
Yeah.
just touch on that a little bit, and I've talked about it before. I do take exception to the me versus me thing that people pretend is important in sports, and I think that I personally believe that me versus you in a rivalry in sports is good for you, the competitor, and it's good for sports. And I
Yeah.
think that we'll dive a little bit more into that, but. Austin's going to have his opinions. I can see in Nathan's face he has his opinions about it. But I do personally think it's good. I think a chippy atmosphere is good for everybody, to be honest. So.
I think that I would say me versus me in the gym is great.
But you don't show up to lose.
You don't go to a powerlifting meet to beat yourself.
Yeah.
Like
You go to be the best fucking person there. Whether you are or not, it's fine, and there's
Right.
nothing wrong with it if you're not.
and
But
you can show
you
up.
don't go to lose.
You can get drug. I mean, you can go there to get drug if you want to.
And you can
but-
PR everything and be happy with your performance.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, nobody goes there to lose.
It's just, but like on an everyday standpoint, me versus me, if you're pretty mediocre, like you only have to do marginally better to be better
Right.
than what you
But
were
that's the beauty.
yesterday.
That's exactly.
But,
I'm sure we're going to
you
get into
know,
that. But the beauty of
if you
competition.
if you have
is-
good competition, then it causes you to strive and to push
To
harder.
elevate.
Yeah, to elevate. It
Yeah,
elevates.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Especially if you really fucking hate somebody.
absolutely.
I think me and Nathan's both. I'm very negatively
Arch
motivated, and we'll get into that a little bit more the next episode. But we're going to talk about that sports rivalry, and we're going to have to probably listen to. Outside of that, we'll probably have to listen to Austin talk about anime for an hour and a half. But
Well, that is going to be like what inspired me to lift was Goku and Vegeta.
I feel like
Everyone
I need
from
more.
Dragon Ball Z.
I love Austin. Austin, you'll have to understand. This is my closing statement, and it's a precursor to the next episode. We all love Austin. Austin has a way of getting shit on when he's not around that is unfair to Austin, 100%. But let it just be said. There's nobody in the room that doesn't love Austin dearly, and he's an awesome person.
It'll be the most fun episode you guys have probably had so far.
I think
it's going to be the most lighthearted for
Yeah.
sure.
There'll be a lot
Absolutely.
of energy. Also,
It's probably going to be the drunkest we've ever been on an episode.
he's gonna.
We're going to do a lot of the sipping it and not very much of the ripping it.
Let's just hope he either has a DD or he is comfortable sleeping on the couch, I guess.
I'm sure he'll have a DD. Heather will be with him, I'm sure. So
I hope
It'll be
so.
good.
I love Heather.
anyway, check in next in 2 weeks from now for Austin Blair's, and we'll get this up soon, right?
All right. It should be pretty soon. We are starting to upload on YouTube now.
Oh yeah, this is the first one we made video of.
video.
So.
I didn't know this was
I
going
did.
to be a video.
Every now and then I did the gym thing and
Did
checked
you?
out cut to the camera. So there'll be some of that in there. I can't help it. I'm a big Office fan, so
Yeah. So
That's funny.
you will find us on TikTok at soon. Actually, I've already made the TikTok, so we're already there. I just haven't uploaded anything on it yet. We'll be on YouTube. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the best
Wow.
streaming stuff. Yeah. And you can find our personals at Nathan Skedios on Instagram.
I'm actually going to start using the at Zack PT _NSCA. That's my professional account. Y'all are welcome to still follow me on my regular account at Model Citizen 5.0 that I've yet to change, even though I don't own the Mustang anymore. And then Sandy here is not on social media, so if you need to get a hold of Sandy, just hit me up. So
Yep.
Yeah.
it is what it is.
All right.
So we should do a camera look before we leave.